This episode does contain some adult language. Please bear that in mind if you are listening within earshot of other people. Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the StatsThonk podcast, the World of Warships podcast that goes out occasionally when we feel like it, and there's enough to talk about. We used to say fortnightly, but that's kind of gone out the window. Apologies about that. But no, seriously, we just we do it when we have time. It's very much an extracurricular thing for us. So thank you for joining us. Welcome back. I am, as usual, joined by the able Killerbin. Hello, Killerbin.
Good evening, sir.
And the wonderful Painezor. Hello, Painezor.
Hi, are you implying I'm not able?
You are able and wonderful.
Okay.
I just wanted to choose one adjective each.
Okay.
You're both able and you are both wonderful.
Okay. Just verifying these things,
Good.
you know.
Okay. So this episode, there's been quite a few things that have gone on since the last episode. So what we did last night, apologies for the slightly late notice, but last night I threw open a channel for some questions. The vast majority of the questions that we had back were about King of the Sea XIII and about submarines in World of Warships. So those are going to be the two topics that we probably focus most on. But we also have some other stuff to talk about that's happened recently. So we've got some stuff to do with Wargaming's communications and the CC program, and some stuff related to that around things like loot boxes. We've got some, obviously, a big section on submarines and King of the Sea. Also, there's quite a lot of stuff coming up in Update 10.10. So I want to run through quickly that, and we can just interject with any thoughts that we want, the three of us. And then, because I don't think the three of us have really talked about that together yet, so that might be an interesting discussion. A couple of random questions. And also a supported, sponsored segment for Manscaped, which we will talk about a little bit later. You can get 20% off with Manscaped at manscaped.com with my code StatsBloke, but we will talk about that a little bit later. If you are watching, obviously, hi, you have video. If you are listening, thank you for joining us later via audio. And I think we will get going. So, the three of us have all been involved in King of the Sea 13. Specifically King of the Sea 13 EU, because King of the Sea is split into the four regions. So you've got EU, you've got North America, you've got CIS, which is the Russian-speaking servers, and then you've got what in KOTS is actually called APAC. I think Wargaming call the server C, Southeast Asia, but I think the KOTS orgs call it APAC, which is Asia Pacific. Asia Pacific, C, all the same thing. So there's the four regions. The EU, NA, and APAC finals are all done, so the winners of those are decided. The CIS finals is this coming weekend as we record it. That's going to be the 30th and 31st of October. And then the internationals, which Painezor and I are both involved in casting, and I guess Killerbin might be involved in co-casting as well, are on the second weekend, which is the 6th and 7th of November. Just in case you haven't been watching, the EU winners were first to third, Ban CV, Shaft, and Paid. The NA winners were a little bit of an upset, KSC, 07, and Bonks. The C winners, or the APAC winners, were Vor, 1S, and Solo. And of course, the CIS winners have yet to be determined because that hasn't happened yet. So, is there anything you guys want to say before we jump into the questions, or should we just jump straight into the questions?
I mean, some of the things that happened this tournament from the game's perspective, I think on EU, with a few exceptions, I think Ban CV were considered firm favourites to win.
Mm-hmm. Fair.
Not to mention the various incidences of poor sportsmanship that occurred on EU.
Not just EU, but yeah, okay.
No, true, yes.
Yeah, but it's kind of unusual in EU, I think. Not to say that EU is better than everyone else, but do you think so?
No, we had the whole incident with GKD.
No, you're right.
True,
no, you're totally right. Yeah, I retract my statement. You're totally right.
But bringing that up, the drama on EU is almost never perpetrated by what we would consider EU teams.
Teams coming from other servers.
Yes, and I'm saying that very carefully.
It's a bit, yeah, it's
bit of a minefield.
It's it's very easy to come across as being sort of xenophobic, but it you can't really deny that. Yeah. Anyway, safe to say, yeah, there was a bit of drama. Was there any RMT this time? I can't remember, but
there have been allegations.
So the only thing that was really that I saw personally, because I happened to be in the channel at the time, was one of the clans literally confessed to throwing a match because of the double eliminations. You can get a slightly easier ride to a higher or to a final position.
The throw was not to get an easier game.
Yeah, the throw was specifically because they wanted to face somebody from their country and insult them repeatedly in the group channel. So that was nice.
Yes, they threw intentionally so they could play this other team, insulted them, and then admitted to the org in their group that they'd done it intentionally.
Yes.
And there were some allegations about potentially selling slots to get badges.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah.
So that hasn't been the sales part hasn't been confirmed.
However,
else was.
I will say that I can't remember exactly how many teams there were. It's a lot of teams. There's globally, there's 5,000 players, something like that. So actually, when you consider that there's a prize pool now, like a cash prize pool, actually the amount of trouble is still pretty low. The KOTS community is generally very, very nice. The sportsmanship, I saw some great sportsmanship, especially during the finals. Watching the training room chat between the two teams. So BanCV and Shaft were being frankly lovely to each other during that final. After the first win, I can't remember who won first, but the team that it was straight 3-0, wasn't it?
It was 3-0.
Yeah. So when BanCV won the first one, Shaft were straight in the chat in training room chat saying, "Yep, GG, well done. You deserve that," which I thought was really cool. There's no need for a bad attitude, basically. So it was good to see that as well.
But yes, I think other than that, it went very well. Obviously, the CIS finals will be determined this weekend, and then Painezor will be in Prague for the Globals.
Yes.
Yeah, indeed. So, yeah, the internationals is going to be a very similar format to the EU finals in terms of the times and stuff. And Painezor is going to be doing the analysis this time, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be. Well, that's assuming I don't get lost in either Frankfurt or Prague.
So so your flight was cancelled or something?
Yeah, okay, so a while ago, Conway messaged me. He was like, "Hey, do you want to come to Prague?" I was like, "Oh, sorry, just punched my arm." And he's like, "Yeah, let's go to Prague." Okay, whatever. That's where get an email. He has your tickets. A couple of weeks later, Conway message: "Did you cancel your flight to Prague?" Like, what? What? No. What? No. And then we discover that apparently the flight was cancelled. So now I have to get a different flight, and this flight has a 2-hour stopover in Frankfurt or Hamburg or somewhere. I don't know. I'm going to stop over in Germany. I'm going to figure it out when I get there. I need a babysitter, an actual in real life babysitter. Do you want to volunteer?
Have we warned the Germans that you're coming?
Speaking of the Germans, yes, we have warned Damel. I'm going to be meeting him, and then because he's also just going there for fun. He's not going to be on the stream or anything, but he's like, "Oh, let's go visit,
go hang out." Cool.
Yeah.
You haven't been to Prague before, have you?
No, I don't leave the house very often, let alone the country.
I've heard it is lovely.
It is lovely.
And I'm also I've also kind of been led to believe that Conway will fill you with pork.
That sounds very wrong. And considering the screenshot floating around from King of the Sea with Santos and Sarah, that's not getting enough.
No, I think they have a favourite local restaurant that is famous for its local speciality of pork knuckles. Visitors usually get taken out. I've also been told there is a very little chance of there being any vegetables.
We went there. It was lovely. Things to watch out for is it'll be bloody freezing, and the modern trams are silent.
Mm-hmm. So just as long as they have a bright light on the front of them, I should be all right.
Most of the time.
What do you mean most of the time?
So yes, so you will be seeing Painezor on the analysis desk during the internationals. I will be doing the in-match casting with Sea Raptor again, like we did for, was it Verizon? I think, yeah. And also I think the last KOTS internationals. I like casting with Sea Raptor. He's good fun. So I think that's going to be an all-star team. So that should be a nice cast.
We don't, however, know who's going to be doing the camera work. We'll figure that out later.
Yeah, we've still got a week and a half, so we've got an organisation meeting coming up, so we'll sort out the exact details of how it's going to work. We've still got time. So, okay, so I guess first of all, you guys, how did you enjoy casting the EU leg?
Okay, that's a loaded question.
I don't just mean like doing the official cast. I also mean just like doing your own cast in the beginning.
Doing my cast with Henning, I had a whale of a time, load of fun. It was a lot of fun. Like chilled out. It's on my own stream. I can see whatever I want. I don't have to care about anything. I get to take the piss. I have I have my little animated Henning as my co-caster camera thing, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's great fun. Woo! And then we get to the finals weekend, and okay, so the actual being in the game, talking over it with you and Baz and Henning, that's great. Yeah. Problem is, like, on the back end, like, back on my channel where there's, like, a restream happening, there's, like, people are getting angry, and there's, like, people getting banned, and there's only, like, 90 people here. How are people getting banned? It's just a restream of the official cast. What's going on? It's just, like, I decided not to do Sunday. So, yeah. So the streaming part was a mess. The casting part was great.
Yes, I completely agree. I had on my channel, and thank you to my mods, because they were, as usual, around to catch this kind of stuff. We had some people who were banned on the official channel for something, and then spilled out into other casts to essentially just complain and carry on being an idiot. Some of them went to Painezor's channel and then got banned in Painezor's channel, and then came to my channel. Where we happened when these two guys arrived, we happened to be me and Painezor happened to be on a break between two games, and so what happens on the official cast? You have the in-match casters who are doing it for like 8 hours, and then you've got the analysis guys who are doing it for the same 8-hour cast. And so that we're not talking for 8 hours, because doing the, hey, and over at the BCAP, blah, 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 like doing that style of talking for 8 hours is very, very hard on your voice and your brain. Mm-hmm. And so you have to have some gaps. And so that's why you have the sofa team essentially doing the cast. Give us some downtime. And we happened to be on a break. And so we were just sitting here like chilling out, just chatting. And so I happened to have like 10, 15 minutes to actually interact with these people in chat. And so we ended up not banning them, but they ended up going away, which was cool. But yeah, it's a shame that some people are like that. We just wanted to like give people a quiet place to hang out that wasn't the official channel, and it was mostly quite cool. But yeah, no, Pain's decided not to do it on the Sunday, and I kind of wish that I hadn't either. But oh well, never mind, it's fine.
It's the thing is as well, like, with it being the restream, the numbers that we were getting on the first 3 days, contrary to like 4 days, contrary to last King of the Sea, where like it was actively like, okay. So there's a difference I want to make here. So you got your financial side of it, and you got your numbers, followers, viewers, that kind of thing. Financial side, King of the Sea is terrible for you. But growth-wise, it's fantastic. And I had fantastic growth for the first 4 days of King of the Sea. Like, absolutely amazing. No complaints about that. And then for the restream day, it's just like, oh, that's like a tenth of what I was getting like last weekend. And now I have 10 times as much drama with 10 times fewer people. Let's just not bother the next day. So, yeah.
It's amazing how much anything with drops, it's amazing how that inflates the numbers, which is, if you're a streamer, as Pain said, is fantastic in terms of boosting your, like basically how large your channel appears to be. But you just have to accept the fact as the streamer that actually the vast majority of those people aren't actually really paying attention. But I don't mind that so much, because it means that the people who are actually chatting are genuine and are wanting to participate. And generally, when you're doing a tournament cast, there's not that much interaction anyway, because people are just sitting watching, and they're not really they're certainly not interacting with the streamer, and they're not really interacting with each other that much either, unless there's something exciting going on. So cast chat tends to be quite quiet anyway. Cool. Okay, well, let's dive into the questions. So we've got the first question is from Grant, Grant Y on Twitch. Do you feel that there is more diversity in ships used in KOTS now that they're over the past 2 years or so? And if you do think that there's more diversity, do you think it's a good thing for teams to have to plan and adapt for a wider range of ships and tactics?
Yes.
I'll throw that to Killerbin first.
And also no.
Good answer. Please explain.
Obviously, in KOTS over the past year, especially for EU, we've only recently had ship bans. But in the past, if we draw the line of like pre-Petro, we still see essentially the same ships. It's still usually Soviet battleships, your Ohios, your Des Moines, your Salems, your Moskvas, your Stalin. The sort of classic competitive ships have always maintained their viability. Then Petro appeared, and we had that blip of Petro essentially replacing Des Moines, Salem, Moskva, Stalin with one ship. And Painezor will have fond memories of that, KOTS.
Yes, Petro. Yeah, just record that, and that's the lineup. That's the cheeky freaky comp.
Yeah, but now with the introduction of first a global ban and now 2 global bans, you are seeing more of a varied lineup when the honestly not necessarily meta ships, but ships that rely on a specific tactic. Because often as we were going through this tournament, we go, oh, they've banned Nevsky, so if there's a smoke train, it'll be Des Moines. Or they haven't banned Marceau, so you see 2 Marceaus a team almost always. So it's less that there's more options. The ships that were always viable are still viable, pending they're not banned by non-availability. Thunderer, Smaland, that sort of thing anymore. But with the targeted bans against specific ships does tend to lead to a bit more of a varied comp.
So here's a question then. So Riberi's got a good question next, which is kind of related to what I'm about to ask, which is, what is your opinion on the ban system? But I think there's a kind of a related question, which is, if what Grant is talking about with this continuation, and I've talked about this before, it's continuation of new ships being added at tier 10, which is obviously going to keep happening. So the wider variety of ships that you have, the more alternative options you have. Like you just said, if you can't bring Nevsky for the smoke train meta thing, you just bring a different radar cruiser, which in this case happened to be Des Moines on EU, happened to be Worcester on NA, for some weird reason I don't quite understand. As that diversity continues to increase, surely at some point that's going to make the ban system kind of pointless. Because...
Difficult to say, because if Petropavlovsk maintained the core of her strength, that the changes the balance changes to her haven't really broken, I still get the feeling if Petro was unbanned, Petro immediately comes back in force. She's too universal. Like on release, I said this several times, she looked to be configured perfectly for competitive. She had everything you wanted in a competitive cruiser.
So, but which means that the ban system, the only thing it really achieves is counteracting bad ship design.
Yes.
Yes, and that's why we have it.
That's why we have it, because of the Petro. Because the Petro season, it was Petros till finals, and then French DD swarms in the finals. Those were the only 2 viable comps. With this King of the Sea, with Petro being banned, we saw a much more varied comp across all servers, and with Kleber being the second global ban, and the ability to target ban Marceaus, that other sort of defining comp has been potentially removed, which forces teams to play something different.
Yeah, like a Ragnar instead. But the thing is, the Ragnar has the downsides. We did see a couple of Ragnar blobs. It was used, I think, Ban CV question mark used it.
Yeah,
A lot of teams were running one or two, but
No, this was-
yeah.
they
We
weren't-
saw one team that had. I distinctly remember saying quadruple at one point. So we distinctly saw wolf packs of Ragnars. Yeah,
It was 3 Ragnars plus a Shimakaze on trap.
That's right.
And it was basically replacing the legendary module Killerbin plus 3 Killerbins that you had previously in the rain strat on trap.
Yeah, it just took longer to get there.
exactly.
But yeah, they did the same thing. They had the Shima out the front for spotting and the Ragnars behind to red.
But because King of the Sea is predominantly still player organized, and without the players, the tournament ceases to exist. There's always going to be a lot of resistance against ships that the community, maybe not as a whole, but the influential part of the community, decide that is negative for player enjoyment and viewer enjoyment. The player enjoyment will always take precedence from the player's perspective. That ships like that will always be more likely to be banned.
The thing is, though, Killerbin has really good spectator value, but to the higher level teams, they really don't like it because it's so disruptive. Like, you can't even run your strategy because it gets there and does stupid things before you can even get to run your strategy. Like, it has problems that aren't rooted in.
It's a pain to fight.
It's not even just being a pain to fight. It can get to positions so early to deny your strategy. You can get spotting on a ship that you needed to get into position, but the Killerbin is so fast it just gets there
Absolutely.
before you can get your strategy up and running. And then it has the burst damage and the YOLO potential. So even if it gets caught out, it can still potentially trade. And just it has its quirks.
I mean, I'm in favor of probably keeping the global bans at 2. I don't see the point of keep adding a global ban, but then we've also got to remember that the global bans are voted by the community that will play it.
Yeah,
so the community voted.
I saw quite a few people in Twitch chat erroneously saying, "Oh, I don't know why Wargaming I don't know why Wargaming banned that ship." Like, no, it wasn't Wargaming that banned the ship; it was the competitors that banned that ship.
Yes.
So yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that. It's like the part of the rules that Wargaming introduced was the ban system, although they're borrowing that from NA from previously. And then it was the players who voted on which ships to actually globally ban.
And don't worry, I think we're going to see a Petropavlovsk nerf. It's going to be 0.5 seconds off its reload. That'll fix it. Can't wait to see it not be globally banned next King of the Sea.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, the same thing happened with Henri. The problem is there was ships that perform particularly well in competitive, but in random battles they're nowhere near as strong relatively. The problem is, like, you try and nerf the tournament aspect of it, and you end up completely ruining it in everywhere else.
I would be willing to make that sacrifice.
I don't think anyone can complain if Petra got nerfed. Heavily.
No, probably not.
So you can't make us feel sympathetic towards Petropavlovsk.
No,
sorry.
No, I don't know. I agree. I don't think anyone would.
As a US battleship main, I don't like shooting at fast French ships, especially ones that are that fast.
Learn to aim, as the French DD.
Okay, Ribery has another question. What do you think about how and when subs, carriers, and super ships will be tested for King of the Sea?
No.
Subs and CVs, heavily unlikely that they will ever be introduced into a King of the Sea without the vast majority of the teams refusing to participate. Super ships, however, maybe.
It would have to be hard limited to 1 per team.
Yes,
yeah, 1 per team.
I agree.
But
if there's enough of them for a bit of variety, because the thing, like, super ships don't bring any of the problems that submarines and carriers bring. That's the thing. It's just a surface ship. Okay, they might have some gimmicks, but there's not any more gimmicky really than some of the other ships that we've literally just been talking about. So, I don't really have a problem with super ships being in King of the Sea or ranked or anything, to be honest.
I would delay their introduction until there's significantly more of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming soon, Super Petro with 15-kilometer radar.
Okay, all right.
No. I'm waiting for Super Daring.
Well, yeah, okay, never mind. The joke just went way over your head there. It's fine.
I know.
But no, I'd be up for that.
Let's have a quick think about this, though, because if you take a look at the existing super ships, the ones that we have, we've got Super
Shimmer,
Super Shimmer,
Super DM, Super Henri, Super Prussia,
no,
Super Shiki.
oh, Super Prussia, I suppose, Hanover.
Yeah. And Super Tashkent, isn't she? Because she's not a. Oh, is she Kava?
Who knows? But my point was going to be, which of these are actually going to be competitively viable?
Super Shimmer.
What's Super Shimmer's concealment?
5'8".
That's okay, never mind then, it's way too good.
And the Super Henri.
But would you take your super slot? Would you put...
This is the question you're about to ask is what really interests me. So because it's the same thing as saying, okay, well, let's run a tournament where it's like so many slots of tier 8, 9, and 10, like some tournaments are. What do you put in the 8, 9, and the 10 slots? It's the same kind of thing. If you think of the super ships as tier 11, which a lot of people are calling them, like what do you spend that tier 11 slot on? It's kind of interesting.
Battleship? ?
I think most teams would plump for Destroyer. Obviously, it depends on the individual ships and what they do.
It's likely DD and Battleship, I would say. Those are the two classes that would more than likely take the slot.
Because even... I don't think your Super Henry... Conde, is it called?
Yeah, Conde.
I don't think that's going to have the... Sure, it's going to be able to farm a lot, but it's not going to be able to like roll over a flank as well as your super battleship would.
Yeah, exactly. Because the advantage the current two super battleships have is they both have 32 mil overmatch. So they both actively hard counter something like a Kremlin.
I also don't think you want to be running a super destroyer because it's too easily focused down.
I think it depends on the map for whether you take the super. I think most of the time a team will default to a super battleship, but on certain maps with certain players, they might prefer to take a super destroyer.
See, instantly, whenever I'm thinking competitive, my mind goes to north, and I'm thinking A flank. And
yeah, Super Shimmer at A. Given the number of times this tournament and in previous COTS, you've seen the DDs contest A and just miss torps. And since Super Shimmer has the extra torp per launcher, I think you'd see, because of obviously having more torps meaning higher chance to hit. But I definitely think that in those sorts of circumstances, something like a Super Shimmer would be more useful to your team than potentially a Hanover.
But you're giving up a regular destroyer smoke screen there. Like, you're giving
Doesn't
up
Super Shimmer get smoke?
Yeah, but it's not Yu-Yang smoke, and it's not Gearing smoke, and it's not Haragumo smoke.
That is true.
So you got clear like downsides as to why you'd bring that. It's
which is why I'm more okay with the super ships, is they have clear downsides still.
I think the fact that you're having a discussion about it is a good thing, is a good sign.
Yeah, because
the fact that it's not just you'd obviously just do this.
Well,
that's not what you want, right?
Yeah, for the moment though. But if we see some sort of super Yu-Yang, that's the main concern with the destroyer super ships.
Mm-hmm.
Is if the super versions of them are just the tier 10 but better.
Well, the thing is, these ships that we currently have are generally your off-meta picks anyway. Your super Yamato. Yamato's not your main pick. Like, it's fair enough, it wasn't exactly the underdog. It wasn't exactly the least picked battleship. It was still there a fair amount, but it wasn't the primary pick battleship. Shimakaze wasn't the primary pick destroyer. Henry we barely saw any of. We saw 0 Khabarovsk. I think we might have seen 1, but it wasn't a real game or whatever, you know what I mean? So with the super ships currently being tier 11 versions of lines which aren't strictly heavily meta, it's okay, but once it starts shifting towards those meta ships, that's when it's going to start getting a bit...
Yeah, no, I agree fully with
when
that.
you compare that discussion to, let's just imagine a horrible world where carriers are introduced to King of the Sea. Yes, I know it's horrible to think about, but just imagine it for a second. If you gave...
Yeah, stop now.
If you gave teams like in clan battles, if you gave them the choice of you can either have a battleship or you can have a carrier, how many of the teams are going to choose to not have a carrier? The answer would be, at least past the first weekend, 0. So that's not a discussion.
There
whereas
was
super ships would be a
one
discussion.
team who didn't run a CV, and the last King of the Sea was CVs. It was like 90th or something like that. The NA team.
Aren't they a bit of a
Meme.
Okay, you're going to say good.
Yeah, there is
Wanted to
that
make
meme.
Sure. Yeah, and they didn't do well.
Yeah, they didn't do very well at all.
So yeah, no,
super ships.
I'd be open to that.
Yeah, one per team, depending on what the super ships are. Once there are more options, depending on what the follow-on ships are, that opinion might change.
I think they would have to test it. I think they would have to run in like a Summer Clash or a Verizon type tournament, something like a one-offy kind of thing,
or a clan battle season.
Yes, although that's a very long time to deal with it if it doesn't work very well.
But they can just take them out. Now we've got the restrictions, they could just take them out.
They could certainly add them in for like a week or two.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. We thought that the submarines would have come in for 2 weeks and then, like, we'll deal with them. But no, we're going to gather more data.
You hoped that would be the case.
So you'll notice that we're all dancing around the submarines here. So, so what about submarines in King of the Sea? So,
No.
The problem is, the problem with submarines, and we're going to talk about submarines a lot later. The problem with submarines, to me, is I still have this opinion inertia from earlier in testing, where I was expecting them to be completely ineffective and totally not, have no influence on the battle, not be able to do any special spotting, not be able to do any particularly good alpha strikes. And that's changed as the testing's gone on. And so, like if you'd asked me a few months ago, I would have said, even if they were introduced into King of the Sea, if the teams didn't have to take one, they probably wouldn't take one. Do either of you think, with the submarines as they are now, with the changes that have been announced coming in, do you think that if a team was offered the opportunity to take submarines in destroyer slots up to a certain limit or something, do you think that any of the teams would actually opt to take a submarine?
Gaisha would take 6 of them. Gaisha would just have a team of 6 submarines being annoying as fuck.
Well, again, it's a case of like submarines as they are now, like if you were to play them today compared to what they're going to be, I think those subs would have had an impact, but they would have been very heavily dependent on the player in whoever's playing it. Like a player like Gaishu could probably win a game with subs. Most other players who haven't really got the experience with them or fighting them, given their popularity still on the lower side, so players don't have a lot of experience playing against them, even if they're actively opposed to playing them themselves, I think subs would have had a relatively little impact. With the changes that have been announced, my opinion still stands. They're still very much player dependent, less so than the other classes, except maybe destroyers.
There's a big thing here about that we're just like overlooking entirely is, would this get through? Because
no, the players wouldn't. The KOTS players wouldn't stand for it.
Firstly, your KOTS players wouldn't stand for it. Secondly, your KOTS orgs wouldn't stand for it. Thirdly, can you stats? Put yourself in a random battle put yourself in spectator. Right, we are now we're on north. 2 submarines pushing up one of the flanks. How do you commentate this? Do you focus your entire attention on these 2 submarines who, the pings, you can't see if they've got any pings or anything. You don't know, you just have to look out the corner of your eye because they're going to be spamming out torpedoes, right? Do we just follow every single torpedo salvo? And it's just going to be...
Yeah, and I guess the other thing is that as a spectator, when, let's say, you've got, in the last King of the Sea, in this King of the Sea, you've got a lot of shimikazes. Typically, they were running 20-kilometer torpedoes. And so you watch them go and you look at the line that the torpedo is taking as it leaves the ship. And you're like, yeah, that's not going to go near anything. I can ignore those torpedoes because I know that they're not going to hit anything. Or you might look at them and think, in a couple of minutes, that might be kind of close to that Ohio that's sitting at the back. We'll keep an eye on that. With the submarines, because of the fact that they can change the way that their torpedoes are going, you'd have to watch really carefully. Otherwise, you're going to miss lots of torpedo hits.
And while you're watching all these torpedoes, you're going to miss the actual interesting action on the other side of the map. When the Des Moines goes around the corner, YOLOing the face of a Salem, and one of them's about to explode. That torpedo might dev strike. It depends. Has he got his damage control ready? I don't care if he's got his damage control ready. Like, the submarine interaction is boring to play, boring to watch.
We'll get into actually submarine play a bit later.
Okay.
Hold your horses. But I think you're right. I think like even and we're all being fairly optimistic about the super ships as casters. Although Killerbin obviously is also a KOTS player. But honestly, I think if you ran that in front of the KOTS community as a whole, they just go no.
Don't worry, though. I'm sure you get some
no.
lovely underwater shots.
Yeah, probably panning shots. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay, moving on. Flo has a question. What are your predictions for the KOTS 13 internationals?
Marceau blobs, Ragnar blobs.
No. Think about it, because global finals still have the bans, don't they?
Yes.
So we saw last KOTS, 2 Asia teams won with the Marceau blobs. With Kleber being banned, don't you think NA and EU and CIS are going to every time they play an APAC team, ban Marceau?
Okay, congratulations. We're going to run a Ragnar blob instead.
At least they're easier to kill.
Mm.
Yeah, and the EU teams have been seeing some teams running that, and so they will be slightly familiar with it, perhaps. Honestly, for us, as predominantly, obviously, EU casters, it's quite difficult for us to do predictions because we're very familiar with the EU teams, obviously, but we're not that familiar with even NA, and we're definitely not familiar with CIS or APAC.
Yeah, but going off what we saw last KOTS and what we saw in the last KOTS finals being heavily French destroyer wolf packs, with Kleber being the global ban, leaving Marceau open as an easy target, I don't think we'll see an APAC winner.
I'm really surprised that we haven't shifted to a whole ban system, because the only things that affect is Des Moines Salem, Yamato Shiki, and Kleber Marceau.
Because all of those candidates do things slightly differently, with the exception of Yamato Shiki. Those two ships do essentially the same thing, but you wouldn't send a Salem to do a Des Moines job.
No, but, hear me out, I think that the ability to get rid of both Kleber and Marceau has so much value as a ban that people are going to be pushing for it, because we've already wasted one of the global bans on Petro, and we want to get rid of them. Like, people who have a problem with Kleber's being so disruptive also have a problem with Marceau's being so disruptive. So
I don't know. I think as a player, maybe you don't like it, but as a spectator, I think disruption is kind of fine, because it's exciting to watch a pack of French destroyers charging across the map and rushing something.
Sure.
So
I think with the global ban being Kleber and leaving the targeted ban of Marceau open, I think for most teams they'll accept that as the solution to the problem. I think when you start getting into hull bans, that idea I'm fairly certain has been floated before in the KOTS Discord and such, and has always been shot down as potentially being too limiting.
Yeah, I think the current ban system is a pretty good compromise, to be honest. I think the danger is if you went to hull bans or you introduced another ban slot or something like that, then you end up ironically going back to the same kind of stagnant meta that you end up with if you don't have any bans, when everyone just brings the best ship, like i.e. Petro.
But if there are more, people are going to be banning the best ships, though. This is the thing; these bans are going to be targeted at the best ships, which would encourage.
But I think if you look at like a standard distribution of like the best ship for a certain role going through to the worst ship for a certain role, there's going to be a kind of a blob in the middle of ships that are kind of okay at a certain role. And if teams are banning the very, very good specialist, or maybe even the very, very good all-rounder in the case of Petro, then it means that because there are more ships in that kind of mostly okay blob, you end up with more diversity, because then
exactly.
Like we've been seeing, like the differences between EU and NA, with different cruisers being used as the smoke cruisers, and it does drive some diversity, I think. But you can push it too far both ways.
I'm just going off what we saw last COTS, and with the knowledge we have now with what the bans are, that I don't expect to see an APAC winner because the teams from APAC who have come through were heavily using the French DD Wolfpack to their advantage, and the ability to remove that lineup from the board will give significant advantages to the regions that don't tend to run those lineups.
But like, I think it's very hard for us to comment because obviously we haven't watched any APAC, haven't watched any CI. So I don't think any of us have done that.
No.
Oh, you have? Okay. Have you got any sort of observations from those servers?
Yeah, Ragnar blobs.
Okay.
The brief bit of Asia I watched was like in the morning, like before. It was like I think it was like Vol versus -1S, and it was on Land of Fire, and they were basically doing with Ragnar what they were doing more so, just just moving around as a group and just finding different angles to farm things, running around.
But both teams doing that.
Vol, I think I can't remember. It was a while ago, but I've definitely watched some of it.
So the other thing that really interests me, that I have kind of a vested interest in, is I don't like the way that Wargaming run the placements, or like how they determine, not in terms of the cash prize pools, but in terms of who they declare the winner. I think, personally, other opinions are available, that the internationals should be run a little bit like, is it the Ryder Cup? Where the teams, the 3 teams from each server, come together, and then they are the EU team, the NA team, the APAC team, and the CIS team, and they're working together as 3 equal.
Not a chance.
Teams.
There is no chance you're going to get everybody from those 3 teams to merge into one super team.
No, that's not what I mean. No, that's not what I mean, because they don't play each other anyway, right? So, like, the way, there's simply, without changing anything to do with the way the tournament works, just simply how because in previous internationals, the 2nd and 3rd place teams get completely ignored. The server that gets the 1st place is declared the winning server, even if no other teams from that server got anywhere, which I think is stupid. I think it should be an overall tally, like you get so many points for coming in this position, you get so many points coming in this position, you add it all up and you see which server won.
But this is a team-based thing, not a server-based thing. So
I think it's because of how the game's set up, the server-based thing is inevitable.
If you end up basing how much money your team gets on another team's performance, that's not what I'm
talking about either. So I'm not talking about changing the prize structure based on where people come. I'm not talking about. All I'm talking about is which server is declared the winner.
So currently, not how much money that each server
nothing
gets
to do with that.
winning.
Just simply who won.
So
because at the moment it's team equals server, and I don't agree with that. I think if, like, let's say Ban CV win overall, but then Shaft and Pay don't get anywhere, they go out immediately. Should EU be declared the winner?
No, Ban CV should be declared the winner. I don't declare it as the team this region.
See, I see it as a more like a Ryder Cup kind of thing. And when I costed it once with Flambas, we had our alternative scoreboard because that's how we both thought it should work. So we actually ended up, and it turned out we actually ended up disagreeing with the official pronouncement of who won because of the way the points worked.
Oh yeah, because they didn't used to have a tournament bracket back then, did they?
Yeah, exactly. It was like round robins and points and stuff. But the way that they calculated the winner was really simple. It was just if you win, if one of the teams wins, that server wins, even if the rest of the server didn't do very well. So anyway, that's just a little bugbear of mine.
Whatever makes the EU look best is the system I think we should use. We should wait until we have all the games happen, right? And then we'll find whatever way we possibly can, be it most ships killed in a game, longest survival time average per game, most points earned, like whatever metric makes EU look the best is the metric we should use to declare the winner.
Yes, I agree. So everything I just said obviously is hypothetical and wouldn't actually happen because, of course, EU are going to win everything. Of course.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So Another thing that's worth pointing out, if it runs like the last one, is that because of the time zones involved, certain matchups are impossible because they don't want people to as far as possible, they don't want people to be having to stay up really, really late or get up really, really early. So they do the brackets in a way that kind of avoids that as much as possible.
Imagine getting up early for a chance to win a $50,000.
Yeah, well, it's a bit different now. There's a cash prize, I suppose, but last international, yeah, some of the teams, like I think there was some players from
it was like second place APAC were like, we just finished. I've won X amount of dollars. I now have to go to work in 3 hours.
So I think one of the players finished playing at like 7:30 in the morning, and had work immediately. Which it's
had I just won that
situation.
money, I would have probably taken the day off.
I would also take the fucking day off.
Yeah.
I would book the day off in advance, knowing that I'm potentially going to be fighting for $50,000 fucking dollars, so I can stay up all night and play the video game. But
so
that's
it's worth. It's just when you watch the internationals, it's just worth remembering that although the time zone is centered on EU, it's the whole planet that's playing. So you've got to remember the time zones.
Yeah, but the EU is most important. So
we decide what the time is.
But anyway, it's going to be very interesting to watch. I watched for the first time actually. I watched the NA third place and finals and stuff, and the meta is a bit different. So it's going to be interesting to see the teams come together and try and cope with the fact that they're not using the same metas. They're not going to be as familiar with the tactics, although of course they're going to be watching the other teams' performances in the VODs. So yeah, that's going to be interesting, and I think. I don't know anything about the CIS teams this year, but certainly the competition, I think, between EU and NA is going to be pretty tight. They're looking very strong.
Well, Stats, it's a good job that you volunteered to cast the CSET finals for us, isn't it? We're going to be watching your channel this weekend, StatsBloke, on Twitch.tv. He's going to be casting all of the CIS regional finals.
No, weekend off. Nope.
Killerbin's going to be casting all the CIS regional finals over at Twitch.tv/Killerbin.
Can't talk about.
Seriously though, if anyone wants to watch the CIS finals, they will be being cast certainly on the official World of Warships channel, obviously in Russian. But you don't need to listen to the commentary.
Our collective moderator DMC will be providing live translation.
No, he won't.
He will be providing codes.
Okay, so let's talk about. So I want to skip the next question for the minute. I'll come back to it. I want to do Durak's question, which is essentially about double eliminations. So, with the change in format happening for EU KOTS, this is a question from Durak, shifting to what NA KOTS did last time round and what CIS have seemingly done for a while, with NA KOTS pushing the double elimination bracket further and further and allowing people to reach the grand final, I'm kind of paraphrasing here, even if they go out quite early or lose quite early. Do you see the four regions coming together with a unified format in the future for a more cohesive tournament? And if so, which format do you think it will settle on?
Right.
I don't fully understand double elim, and me and Flambas spent quite a lot of time during casting playing random games because we're like, now what?
Okay, so for a true double elimination format, which I think only no region has probably used double elimination, because proper double elimination, you would lose twice to fucking be eliminated, right? This includes the team coming back, i.e. KSC versus 07. That should have had a second series taking place after it for the true double elimination, because 07 were eliminated once, KSC were eliminated once. We do not have a proper double elimination format. We have various hybrids of it going on in each of the different regions, having their own different hybrid version of it, but none of them are a true double elimination format. Now, back to the main question at hand, do we expect to see the regions unifying, considering that NA has about one organizer left at the minute because there was some drama over there? It's highly likely that Wargaming might make a push to try to take over that region too, so they're going to be running both EU and NA. And if they manage to get that, CIS is already done by Dream Eater.
Exactly. So
that would leave just Asia. Then yes, I think it's very possible to see a homogenization of the rule system. But
yeah, you make a good point.
This all depends on how NA rebuilds. I'm not sure how the NA rebuilding process is going to go, but I know that there's going to be some massive restructuring taking place simply because they've run out of organizers. I think you've got Thrice left, and Yeah, that's about all I remember. It was the only one I see active anyway. There might be.
Yeah,
but
but
I don't know how it works behind doors.
The move that, which there is an entire episode of the StatsThonk podcast about, should you wish to go back and listen to it, where we interviewed the previous creators of King of the Sea on EU. The move that Wargaming did, where they basically paid the orgs to walk away, so they could take control. They could do exactly the same thing on NA. There's no reason why they couldn't do that. But yeah, for the minute, it's not unified. But yeah, no, they could totally do that because effectively they've got control of EU and CIS. NA is not that much of a step further than that. But APAC is a bit of a weird one, but they could.
I don't think we're all well read up on who does what in APAC to determine how much wargame influence there is.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm a bit of a traditionalist when it comes to double elimination. I don't like it. I really like the format where it starts as round robin eliminations, where just like the top end teams go through and the bottom end teams go out. That's it. Go home. Goodbye. And then you go through to straight elimination brackets, where as soon as you lose, you go home. I like that format. I don't like double eliminations.
I don't mind double elimination at all because theoretically, it would give us more games to have content with. But unfortunately, we seem to run all the brackets at the same time, so that point's moot. But yeah.
It allows, in terms of following a team and having a story, where you can have like these amazing comeback stories. I could see the appeal of that. I can see the appeal of having a team which happened on an A, where a team can lose in the round of 16 and then go through to win. Literally what happened. That's a great story, but I think for me, it just leaves a bitter taste in my mouth. I don't like the idea that someone can lose earlier in the tournament and then go through and do really well. I think you should be punished for that loss, not rewarded. So yeah, no, I just don't like it. Not a fan.
Yeah, we don't mind it. As long as the rules are presented crystal clear. Because think about it this way as well. Like,
yeah, sure.
Imagine you have a bracket which is so heavily one-sided, you've got squall teams all the way through your side of the bracket. Meanwhile, on the other side of it, you've got, 2 Hurricane clans every single round on the other side of the bracket. And then you get to a game at some point where, you've just came off the back of 3 best-of-5 series. The other teams walk through and, they've gone 3-0 in each of their series. And you've burned all of your good strategies. And, your players are absolutely knackered. You've been playing all day. And you get knocked out in a close series because you guys have just been burned out all day.
Yeah,
and then,
I can see I can see your argument. I don't agree with you, but I can see your argument. Yeah, no, it's purely just I just don't like it. But I can see the argument for the other side. But as you say, as long as the rules are clear, as long as everyone knows how it works, as long as it's a level playing field and everyone has the same opportunity, it's fine. Like the rule with, I don't really want to get into the discussion about it, but the rule with the don't use ASW planes. As long as the rule is clear and everyone has been told that the rule is there, if it's a new rule,
and you have removed the 4 button from your keyboard,
and you physically pried the 4 button off your keyboard, then if you get disqualified because one of your players did that, tough. It was very clearly described and communicated. So it was fair for everyone. So yeah, no, as long as it's the key thing in sport is that as long as it's a level playing field, as long as the rules apply to everyone.
Going back to talking about so long as the rules are crystal clear, I thought they were this time, but then again, day one of EU was kind of...
Yeah. Yeah, it was. One team using ASW planes twice, and one team bringing a Petropavlovsk.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
And A7 throwing a game at 998 points.
Was it Jelly that? No, it was Jelly. It was last KOTS who brought a Battleship.
Yes.
I can't remember who it was this KOTS.
Was it Extreme or something? There was a meme on the Discord. It was like Sun Tzu's. Like the answer to one's self is to remember what banned ship you banned.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they bought the ship that they had banned.
They had banned, yeah. They bought their series ban. Okay, so the next question, which is I think is probably the last question for King of the Sea, is probably going to trigger me and Painezor. So apologies for that. We're probably about to have a rant.
I didn't have to watch it because I was busy co-casting elsewhere.
So Flo asks, any luck or any chance that we will not see the official channel special camera work? Or is it going to be a sunken cost fallacy, and they'll still do it despite having a lot of negative feedback?
Right. So. Okay. So.
Do you want to start, or shall I? Go on, you go.
I'm going to go, right? All right. So we've been working with and against this camera for the last year now. The first time it came out was with the Horizon Warriors Championship last year in around September, October, that kind of region. So it's been about a year that's been rolling. Before that, it was also being used on the CIS cast, I believe. So that's been going on CIS for about 4 KOTS. And we've had so many show matches. Just every other Thursday, it's like, oh yeah, Painezor Stats, can you come to a show match? We're gonna test some new thing with the camera. Oh yeah, sure, right? And every time we have a wrap up afterwards, we have a discussion. How do we think it went? Do we think it was good? Do we think it's ready? No, we don't. It's still bad. It has all these problems. And then we have conversations, and then there's private conversations that I can't tell you about, but then there's public conversations that I can tell you about, and the public conversations that we're having in the KOTS Discord and the STP cam feedback channel, and it's just wall after wall of negative feedback. And this all comes down to, who the fuck is this camera aimed at? Because it's not aimed at anyone with any competitive level knowledge of this game, because none of them can follow the goddamn thing because he's too busy taking an underwater panning shot of a fucking sinking Moines. Sorry if I'm swearing a lot, but I get really annoyed.
You let it out. Let it flow. Let it out. It's fine.
Like,
good for you.
So, with my camera on my channel, I can sit there, I can position something. I can be like, all right, this is what I want to talk about in focus. In the background over there is something I'm keeping an eye on, but I'm going to continue talking about this in the foreground. But if there's something happens in the background, I can adjust to it. I can explain a position on my channel. I can point to you and tell you this ship has angles on this, this, and this. I can't do that with this panning camera that's currently going around and taking this lovely shot of the gross curvest over there. It has some benefits. It has two really nice features. It has the instant replay, and it has the picture-in-picture. Those are the two things that I would take from this camera and just be like, okay, take my feed. If I miss something, put it in this little picture-in-picture as a replay, and then everybody can see what they missed. What we don't need is the Kremlin that's been farmed down for the last 10 minutes, the last 10 seconds of its life as it burns out the last 3 ticks of its health. We don't need that. No, we know it's dead. There's a reason we've moved away from that.
So let me paint a picture, because this discussion has only recently sort of become public in the feedback channels in the King of the Sea Discord, so we can now kind of talk about it a little bit. Because otherwise I'd feel a little bit like it's like that whole discussion about the camera work is kind of private, right? Because we were doing it behind closed doors, and the discussion that we were having with St. Pete's at the time was not public. But as the feedback has come out and we've actually done it live, I think it's okay now to kind of talk about it a bit. So where we started with like trying out this artistic, I call it the artistic camera. So trying out the artistic camera model. We were asked to try as an experiment, which is fine, fair enough. Could you please try casting the match only watching the St. Pete's feed, only watching the Leicester Studio feed? The initial suggestion was that we wouldn't even have a position in the game, so we wouldn't even be in the training room. We are just literally watching as observers the feed coming from the official cast, essentially, with no delay. That was impossible, completely impossible. You just ended up with
a very angry stats.
Well, we'll get to that in a second. So, because the problem is that like they'd show a lot of the time with the UI turned off, they would show a panning shot of a ship, and then a few seconds later a panning shot of another ship, and then some torpedoes going towards something, and then a smoke screen being laid down, and then an island, and then a panning shot, and then a death shot. And the camera kept switching between all these close-up ship shots. And yes, you've got the mini-map in the corner, but the problem is you're trying to do like a live running commentary where you, like, ideally one of you is always talking, and because, like, obviously any silences are a little bit awkward in a sportscast, and so you try to minimize those. And when you're watching a feed that doesn't have an overview, and you're trying to get, and the only overview you have available to you is the minimap, but obviously the minimap it's not really that detailed. Trying to keep track of, okay, where is this camera currently pointed? Because when they switch cameras every 4 seconds, 5 seconds, you have to look at the minimap, look at where the, like, view cone is, which is not always immediately obvious because it's quite subtle. You've got to work out which island you're looking at, essentially, which ship you're looking at, what that ship is, and then describe what's going on. And you've got to do all of that in the 4 seconds that shot is on the screen before the next thing happens. And what you end up with is a commentary that goes something like this. That's a cruiser. This is a gearing laying a smoke. This is a destroyer. Like, the BCAP is being... Which island is this? Is that a Nevsky? What happened to that battleship at the back? Like, it just becomes this horrible, descriptive, reactive string of nonsense that doesn't do anything to describe the match. And so Wargaming basically were like, okay, essentially, we agree that doesn't work. So go into the game, have a spot in the game, but try and predominantly look at the feed. Still doesn't work because you can't switch between looking at the live camera that you're controlling and then looking at the feed of what they're controlling and flicking between the two, because the same thing happens. You look at the feed, it takes a couple of seconds to work out what you're looking at, and then when you look back, things have changed because ships have moved, people are shooting people and whatever. And so that was also impossible. At which point, and I'm sure I've said this publicly before, I lost it. I am ashamed to say, during one of those test casts, I totally threw my teddies out and had a bit of a divas drop. I was like, nope, not doing this. If this is the way you want to do it, we're not doing it that way. I'm sorry, I'm out. And so we basically I laid down an ultimatum saying, we are going to cast like we would normally cast, and if you want to try and follow us, you can follow us. Otherwise, we're out. Goodbye. And so, fair play to Leicester. They did. And for the next few test sessions, they actually got better and better and better at following us, which is how we're now doing it. And it actually works reasonably well. The criticism I would lay against it, which I think is the criticism a lot of people are laying against it, is there's not enough context. You still have a lot of these panning shots going past ships that are kind of irrelevant, death shots that were kind of obvious while something else is going on. There's not if there's two fights going on at once, there's not enough information about the two fights. But as Painezor said, there are two things about it which are absolutely fantastic. Picture-in-picture works really, really well. What they were doing generally for the picture-in-picture was tracking torpedoes. So you'd have like a fun gunfight going on in the foreground, and then in the background, in the picture-in-picture, there'd be torpedoes going towards a parked cruiser on a corner, because you don't need much detail for that. And Painz, can you, whatever it is you're doing, can you not do it?
That's not me. That's somebody walking around in the background.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So they use the picture-in-picture for like high-level stuff, and then they switch to it if it becomes important, like if the torpedoes are going to kill the ship or whatever. And the other thing is the replays. The replays work really well, because I can, out of the corner of my eye, I was the one with the feed open, while Painezor was just doing pure live commentary. And I could see the like transitions swoosh out of the corner of my eye, so I know, okay, they're playing a replay, which means that you can't see the live feed. And so then I could say like, and now we're seeing a replay of blah, 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 and then cut back to the live action. And that actually did a couple of times catch things that we had missed or didn't have, a direct overview over, which was really cool. And so I'm with Painezor on this. I think the ideal solution for this is have both of the casters, assuming you've got two casters, have the two casters with their direct camera feeds being cut into the rest of that picture-in-picture and replays stuff. And if there's like a quiet moment when not much is happening, particularly at the beginning of the game, then you can cut in things like the tactical map, the artistic overviews, the flyovers, the no UI artistic shots, because they look really cool. But if there's something important going on, that's not the time to show those. And I think that's the ideal combination. I think if you did that, and you put those two things together, you would have a really cool looking cast. It would be professional, and it would be easy to follow.
The problem is, apparently, our camera works shit.
I'm not saying the improvement is not possible. I think part of the problem is that so obviously when you're watching the Leicester guys doing their camera control, they have developed themselves in-house a way of controlling those cameras live, which is really smooth. So I think they're using joysticks or joypads or something, so that they've written their own code, I think, to be able to do that. So they can do these smooth fly-throughs that you just can't do with the default client, because you're controlling zoom with your scroll wheel, which is in steps, and like flying across the map takes time, and it tends to be very jerky.
Well, there's apparently a discussion broke out on the CC Discord in the Not India channel, just a normal channel the other day, about all these different, like, have you seen the video that came out recently where the guy just made a little music video to go along with like this graphic update and all that, and there's like all that kind of stuff on there. Apparently there's buttons you can press. It's like you press control and minus, and it decreases the sensitivity of the camera zoom and things like that. And I'd have to get the full details of it.
Okay.
But if they could just tell us, like, I was like, okay, your camera movements are too jerky. I was like, okay, let me just turn my sensitivity way the fuck down. Done. Like, I had somebody come into my Twitch channel when I was on my channel, still saying that on behalf of the entire Russian server, like, that my camera movement was like, I can't remember how he worded it exactly, but it was like,
wasn't it making them like seasick or something?
It was like snapping my head around like a wild dog or something to that effect. I can't remember what the exact wording was, but basically it's like, okay, can you like calm the fucking camera down? It's like, all right, yeah, sure. I'll just turn my sensitivity all the way down, and I'll just do the low zooms and that, and I'll still be able to talk about it. It's just, it's more fluid with the camera motions. The problem is, we don't get much more direction about the camera other than your camera is shit, because the one piece of camera feedback I remember me and Stats ever getting when we were doing, I think it was Summer Clash, we last did it without the camera.
We did do one of those test casts. Do you remember that Leicester weren't ready, and we did it the normal way? And then we got some feedback on that. Yeah. I think that was probably what it was as well.
The only feedback I remember ever directly getting from Conway was, can you show the team views more often so you can talk about, vision control? And it's like, well, no, we can't, because the Control 2 and Control 3 buttons are fucking shite, because I can't keep track of anything.
Which is why that new mod is so cool.
Fantastic mod. Yeah, that's amazing.
That mod changed everything. Because, the 1, 2... So I don't know whether you guys know, dear listeners, but when you're in spectator mode, so when you're casting or you're just mucking around in training room with your friends, if you're in the spectator slots, currently you can use the 1, 2, and 3 keys. 1 shows you the green team view, 2 shows you the red team view, and 3 shows you both teams. But there's some problems with that. There's a huge render delay when you switch, and any torpedoes that are spotted in one of the modes stay spotted when you switch. So it's not a very good... And there's no on-screen cue as to which view is currently selected, and it's not always obvious what the caster has selected. So you end up having to say, I'm now selecting the green team view. And obviously that takes up time, and it's just a bit clunky. It doesn't really work very well. And so this new mod that you might have seen on the KOTS casts, which all of the casters should have been using, where there's a little exclamation mark next to the ship if it's been spotted. Just fantastic. Because there's no more... Because in previous KOTS casts, one of the main things that gets said all the time is that ship spotted? I think that ship's spotted. Oh, yes, he must be spotted, because, it just completely rules that out. He's like, yeah, no, that destroyer is definitely spotted, because I can see that it is spotted. And it changes everything. Especially
when you factor in things like radar, hydro. Like, you don't have to sit and think, is he on the edge of that radar right now? No. Stalingrad's popped his radar. He's got a little exclamation mark on the DD. He spotted it. Boom, done. Yeah. No fucking about pressing 1, 2, and 3. We can still see in the background that Shimakaze has not been spotted all game because he hasn't got the little grey exclamation mark. It's great. It's a fantastic tool. I love it. Problem is, it should be base game along with a lot of other things.
Yeah, the next two things on my wish list would be the same icon as radar, but for hydro, so that you have a permanent thing above your head, and for the bloody in-game game as like the normal game as well, not just for tournaments, so that you can see that your teammates are hydroing, not just the every 30 seconds, whatever it is, swoosh, because that's not often enough.
I want a big solid ring, like on the map,
Yeah, just
around 12 kilometers away from the ship.
Something,
just a solid ring.
Anything that's just always there. And the other thing that I would like, which is something that I've heard you ask for, is incapacitation and disablement stuff. So are the guns knocked out? Are they permanently knocked out? Are the torp tubes knocked out? Are they permanently knocked out? Because you can't see those things very easily. And it's really important. Those are my top two.
Killerbin?
I think Killerbin went to get a drink while we had a rant.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he's back yet.
I figured there was enough time.
No, it was so what are your qualms with not just the wargaming camera, because you said that you haven't had to deal with that, but what about the spectator client in general, since we've got on a little tangent now, because we're gonna rant about this.
Okay, well, my only direct criticism of the spectator system is the fact that at certain points there was suddenly a massive reduction in the number of other streamers that could stream because the wargaming casting setup required 11 slots.
Yeah,
so there's
that. Which seems
8. So it's
excessive.
specifically it's 8 cameras and 3 casters. So it was me, Painezor, our resident expert, which was really cool to have Baz or Henning in the games with us, so we could bounce ideas off them, and then the 8 cameras for Leicester Studio,
and also 1 CIS caster. I believe it was Gutian was taking up one of the spectator slots as well, but he was in the camera room with them, which is really confusing. I'm not sure how he works with that, because that camera feed is constantly going to both feeds.
Yeah, I don't know how they do that. Sure.
So I sometimes wonder if he's talking about something, they'll switch to his thing at the same time. I don't understand it. You know what I mean? It's weird.
Yeah. So I mean, I can only briefly talk about my experience of watching, because I didn't watch that much of EU. I did watch a bit of NA, and I have to say, the NA finals where it was Zath and Sea Raptor with direct camera control was a lot easier to watch. Even if it wasn't as pretty, it was actually much easier to follow. You can't escape that fact. And I think that is if you read through all the feedback, the one thing that keeps coming up again and again and again and again is if the casters don't have direct camera control, it's really hard to follow what's going on. So I don't think there's much more to say about that. Whether the Leicester team can ever get to a point in conjunction with casters like us where they can get it pretty and followable, probably could do with a lot of work. The question is it worth it?
They're clearly putting effort and resources into this.
I'd rather have those effort and resources put directly into updating the spectator client. How do I say that politely?
We don't know if that's in the works, though.
No, but I can put paragraph after paragraph after paragraph into the CC Discord feedback channel.
What do you mean could? You have.
Yeah, well, I know.
Submit it in English and in Russian. Who knows? Maybe we'll get through better.
All right, DMC, I might have a job for you afterwards. I need to translate this wall of text into Russian so I can go through the Russian channel as well.
But you're right, though, Killerbin. It is. It's certainly a good sign that they're putting effort into it, even if we don't necessarily think that effort is quite directed in the right place. Because it shows that they think that King of the Sea particularly has some longevity, and it's something that they want to continue to develop, which is a good thing. And frankly, slot number availability notwithstanding, if you don't like that style of camera, and I would put myself in this bracket, then you can go and watch someone else's stream. Like if I'd been watching the finals, I probably would have been watching Flymaster's stream, because I know that he would have had direct camera control. So, there's always an option, even if it's quite a limited option at the moment because of the number of slots. But hopefully, Wargaming can do something to increase the number of slots that are available for the finals.
See, I've asked on the CZ Discord why we can't get up to 40 slots again, and all I hear is that it causes havoc on the back end. But from my memory of last KOTS when we had the 40 spectator slots, apparently in-game got a little bit laggy for the players.
It caused a lot of issues on NA. They seem to have determined that the problems on NA that resulted in Conway having to be woken up at 3 a.m. might have been caused by
I love
the
how every
40
time
slots.
that story gets told, it gets later and later and later.
Yeah.
Is it 3 a.m?
I think it was actually 11 p.m.
Oh, fair
No,
enough.
it's 5 a.m. now.
It's like the fish was this big,
Yeah, but from what I've been told, they believe the increasing it to 40 slots caused so much instability on the back end that that's what caused the NA problems. And that's why they went back to 20 for this time round.
I would rather take the fucky training rooms with the backup proviso of these press accounts that we have specifically for this purpose, and give people as much chance to cast this, as much chance to switch to whoever streamer you want. Maybe you don't like the official channel. You can have like I would prefer to take the risk on the unstable training rooms than to not. I
think especially when you've got casters who are casting in all major languages, right? Because you've got people casting in German and Polish and French and Japanese and Chinese, like all these major languages.
And then we're taking 12 slots.
And and that really limits the ability. So if it's 12 slots, there's 8 remaining. There's only maximum 8 different languages that you can cover, other than the official cast. And I think that's a shame. It's a shame because there will be a lot of people who would want to watch in their native language or a language that they know well and just can't. And that is true for the rest of the competition, where you've got like 30, 40 different casters casting in, I don't know how many different languages, like 20 different languages, where you can find a King of the Sea cast in your own language. Probably.
Geordie.
Yes, the Geordie cast especially.
Oh, and here we see the Killerbin is going for a wee little torpedo rush, like.
Yes, I'm sure the Geordie minority appreciated that.
All right.
So, okay. Is there anything else we'd like to mention about King of the Sea? You can say no. It's okay.
Did we miss a question? I'm pretty sure we missed a question.
No, I definitely went back. I did skip one, but then I went back to it because I wanted to save the camera work till last because I knew that would trigger us.
Oh, yeah. I thought we.
No, I think we've done it all.
Okay.
So, unless you have any other burning points you'd like to raise about King of the Sea 13?
No,
okay.
I don't think they do.
I think we're good.
So, so you can catch King of the Sea CIS finals this coming weekend as I record this at the end of October, and then the first weekend in November will be the international finals, which will be being cast on the World of Warships official channel by me and Sea Raptor and Painezor and Malta.
I don't believe Malta's taking
I
part
can't
in
remember
the official cast.
Who's
for
the other?
internationals.
Oh, you're doing it with Sarah, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's me, Sea Raptor, Painezor, and Seraphis who will be doing the casting and analysis, and then obviously Chris Santos and Conway will probably be around as well.
Also Bogsy.
And Bogsy, yes. So yeah, come and join us for that. I think the final King of the Sea KOTS container drop stuff will be available then as well.
Yeah, I think you get 2 drops next week.
Yeah, I think it's one mission that drops 2 containers. Yeah, and don't forget that the KOTS collection is being withdrawn, and so if you don't complete it this time, I think unfortunately it's gone.
However, if you do complete it and then you get another drop, you get the fantastic Tier 8 North Carolina perma camouflage with the little KOTS cool bits and bobs on it.
It's actually a really cool camo.
Oh shit! We didn't fucking mention the fact that those were on the special client that we don't get access to, that the fucking spectators are using.
So okay, let's talk about that quickly. So, if you're watching the official cast, you might have noticed that on the islands, there were like big medallion-y things, and there were like flagpoles with the previous international winners on them, and like pirate flags and no parking signs and all sorts of other bits and pieces. that was purely coming out of Leicester Studios. And even we, as the casters in the official match, couldn't see that in our own client because we didn't have that client.
That might have been the one swaying factor that made me just go, okay, whatever. And it's like when we had the last discussion about whether to use that camera or not. Like, all right, whatever. I hope your thing's good. But now we've seen it, so.
So, yeah, no, it's a shame that we couldn't. I'm kind of hoping that they'll be able to get us the client for the internationals because it would be cool to be able to say, oh, and here going past the giant victory coin or whatever it is. Because that did actually look pretty cool because it made it kind of special. Some of the signs were quite funny.
Enjoy your 50 gigabyte download with the night before stats.
Yeah, indeed. Although by the internationals, I'll have fiber.
Wait, what? You don't have fiber?
Yeah, no.
What the?
What? Wait, do you have fiber?
No, let's not get started on my internet. Right, so it's currently working. Don't provoke it.
Okay.
Anyway, okay, let's move on to the next topic. So there's actually kind of two related topics. So the CC program and recent events that we've talked about before, and then also the related stuff to do with Wargaming's change in communications and the stuff that they've said that they will do, and then coming off the end of that, the stuff to do with loot boxes addressing gambling and those kind of things. So, Wargaming, I don't want to go back through point by point everything that they've said. Definitely don't want to do that. But I just want to allow us three to just say what we think about the recent stuff that's been going on. So Wargaming said a bunch of stuff. Lots of companies do this all the time where they're like, oh, sorry, we screwed up.
We're sorry.
We're sorry. Like, that's the whole South Park thing. I'm sorry. And a lot of companies it's just words. So the question is, that's in everyone's minds, I think, is this going to be one of those situations where it's just, oh, we're sorry, and then they just don't do anything? Or they do a little bit for a little while, and then it kind of just slips back to how it used to be. I would say, personally, now, a lot of people go, oh, you're a shell. They seem to be doing pretty well so far. I'm naturally a skeptic, so I'll always have that eye of suspicion, like, are you carrying on doing that? But so far, I'm pretty impressed. They have done what they said that they would do. Some of the things that they've done are laudable. They are producing way more information, frankly, too much for me to read, about what they're doing and why. And some of the things that are really important, like the stuff to do with releasing the drop rates of loot boxes and trying to do age verification and things like that, they have said that they will do, and we're just starting to begin to see the beginning of that now. Am I delusional? Do you two think the same thing, or where are you?
Healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah, likewise. They did give themselves a lot of time to do it,
Mm.
so we'll have to keep an eye on it for the foreseeable future until we meet their deadlines that they set for themselves. And if they have completed what they set out to do by the time they set out they were going to do it, then yeah, they stuck to their words. If they don't, well, I guess the cynic in me is going, well, if they give themselves a year to do it all, people will forget what they said they were going to do.
No, we won't.
We won't. Some people won't. But the vast majority probably will. That's the cynic in me. But so far, they seem to be doing what they said they were going to do.
I would actually argue that group of people that you're talking about didn't care in the first place. But yeah, no, there's the certain community cornerstones, like Painezor, for example, genuinely, because I'm not the one doing all the typing in the CC Discord. He's the one doing all the typing in the DC Discord. Painezor is very, very active when it comes to the CCTP.
Please send all your game suggestions to Painezor.
No, genuinely, he's one of the champions of the program, and so yeah, people like us, but particularly CCs like Painezor, will not forget what they've said and will not let them get away with not doing it.
I think I checked recently, and I think since February, apparently I've sent 5,000 messages or so in the CC Discord.
5,000?
I've sent more messages in the CC Discord than Shunai has. I don't know how. It's probably to just sit there and socialize most of the time. But then I get my massive rants. When I get my massive rants, I get going.
I basically don't interact with the CC Discord, but I never have, right? So I've never treated that program as a two-way thing. For me, it's always just been about content creation, and occasionally I'll like, oh, like Conway, can I have a graphic, or Conway, can I have this? For me, it's never been an interactive thing, but lots of people have treated it as a very interactive thing.
That's the thing. Like, so all right, there's this whole thing about them resetting expectations, etc. But the original thing, when I first started content creation, right? The CCs were this thing, like this mystical thing, like, you know, they would talk to the devs and like they're passing on our feedback, and Wargaming's gonna they get to talk to Wargaming directly, and it's like the idea of applying to CC is just like, oh yeah, I get to do all the cool shit. I get to bring forth all the complaints of my community. I get to, like, you know, represent the little person and tell Wargaming about this is bad. All these people think this is bad and all this kind of thing. And then you get there and it's like, here's all the feedback, take all my feedback. And then like everybody leaves. You guys said that like this is like a magical place. No? No? Okay. Yeah. But at least I got free shit.
Well, this is it. And I think like what you get out of the CC program depends on what expectations you had of it in the first place, compared to what Wargaming's expectations are of it, which may not match and probably didn't match in the majority of cases. There's a whole bunch of work that we can't talk about that's going on in the CC program, talking to CCs who want to interact. Of course, not everyone does. And Wargaming are having a quite decent two-way discussion. Whether they actually, you know, do anything about the feedback that's going in the other direction, who knows? But hopefully, they are listening to the feedback that they're getting from the participating members. But there is stuff going on with the CC program, so they're not, you know, that they haven't. It hasn't stagnated. Put it that way. So it is moving. Where it's going, we'll see. But hopefully we'll have some stuff that we can talk about in the near to medium future about CCTV. So yeah, hopefully you guys have noticed, listeners, that Wargaming have been a lot more communicative recently with things like the dev blogs. When they post a dev blog, it's not just like this is what we're doing. They've also added a bit about this is why we're doing it, and they've tried to add a little bit of context, a little bit of the thinking behind it. And then also they've done a bit of projection in terms of this is what we are going to do in the future, which is something that they haven't really done before. They're opening up their roadmap a little bit, which is very welcome, I think. Can we talk? This is a very emotive topic. Can we talk briefly about loot boxes?
Sure.
So I know this is a favorite topic of yours, and it is of mine, to be honest. But I don't talk about it because it makes me angry. So I'm not very happy with the fact that a free-to-play game, which is open to all ages, kind of has. I like Wargaming will say it's not gambling. It's kind of gambling, especially when you consider that I can walk into a bookies, which if you're not British is like a betting shop, right? So I can walk into a betting shop and I can place money on a horse race at 3-1. I know the odds that I'm going to get my money back, or if I do get, I know how much money I'm going to get back if I win, and obviously I know how much I'm losing because that's the money I'm putting down. When you have a mechanic where real money is involved, I don't include in this the free stuff, although there are issues with that. When there's money involved and the odds of what you can get out of it are not disclosed, that is literally worse than the horse betting in my book. Would you agree with that, Painezor?
Yeah. It's like, look at the Agincourt boxes, for God's sake. Look at poor little Teaboos like Killerbin who spend their life savings trying to get a pixel boat.
Let's not talk about that.
Why not? This is exactly the kind of thing we should be talking about. We should be drawing attention to the fact that poor little vulnerable people like you who want to get that little pixel boat have been scammed out of however much money I use that term. Okay, scammed is a very
have been led into.
Yeah, that's a very aggressive term. I don't want to use that word because we're a public place. But right, okay, so
it's easy if you. So the problem is it's yeah. I mean, it's gambling, right? So if the house always wins, but the thing is, there is an analogy which is it's not quite the same thing as the bookies, because if I walk into the bookies and I put my money down, and the horse I bet on loses, I don't get anything. My money's gone. I get nothing other than the enjoyment of betting, which some people do genuinely enjoy. I used to bet on horses occasionally. It's kind of fun. But there is the analogy is when I was a kid, I used to go to a lot of sort of like school fetes and things, and a common thing in Britain is this thing called a lucky dip, where you pay like £1 or 50p or something like that. These days it'd probably be like a tenner. you rummage around in this bin that's full of wrapped prizes, and so you're always going to get something. You just don't know what you're going to get. And the idea is that whatever you can pull out of that crate, whatever you can pull out of that bin, is going to be at least worth what you paid. You don't know what it's going to be, but you know the value is going to be at least what you paid. And that's kind of how these premium loot boxes work. You pay £2.50 or whatever it is, you get a loot crate, and you know that whatever you're going to get out, whether it be camos, signals, a ship, whatever, is going to be worth at least £2.50. That's the principle. But the danger is that you don't know until you've asked around a bit what the chance of getting the thing that you actually want, which is probably going to be the ship or camo or something, permacamo. You don't know what the drop chance is, and so the difficult part is you're buying into something that like to use the lucky dip analogy. Let's say you pay your 50p, and 90% of that bin is full of a chocolate bar that you don't like, and 10% is like the one. 10% is like the really cool prize. It's like a remote control car or something. And you know that the remote control car is in there, but you really hate the chocolate bar. It's kind of like the analogy, but they don't tell you this is 90% the chocolate bar you don't like. So that is what Wargaming have agreed to do. They've agreed to say the bin is full of 90% Kit Kat and 10% radio control cars.
But on top of that, they've also said you don't have to do the lucky dip. Instead, you can just straight up buy the remote control car.
Yes.
That's the other thing that they've promised.
Yeah, that was the key thing. That was the thing we were always talking about, especially back when the Missouri debacle was happening. It was sell it in, do the random bundles, but also do a direct for purchase. Give people both options. People can try and get it cheaper and roll the dice, or just buy it at a fixed price. Both options, if both options are present and they're both fair, no one will complain because everyone knows the situation. If the chance of rolling it for cheaper is known, so much the better.
Yeah, that has to be a move in the right direction, right? I think you could go a step further than that if you were like an and I'm not particularly an anti-gambling campaigner, but in a game that kids play, things that you see as a young mind are very, very influential over how you behave as an adult. And if you are before I left the free content the free content randomization stuff, like you get this free container and the free container might contain something. That's just training you how that mechanic works so that when you come up against the premium version of that, you know how it works and you are habituated into doing it.
Which is funny because I've gone the opposite way. Because of all the terrible luck I've had with the free ones, I've been put off ever wanting to spend my doubloons on the loot boxes, apart from the Santa boxes. I know they've got good rates.
That's very interesting. I don't think that's how it works for most people. So there is also this argument that I've heard some other content creators for World of Warships saying, which is we shouldn't even have and I know this is a very common position for a lot of high-profile streamers and content creators is loot boxes should not be in the games at all, because if any minors play that game, you're training them to gamble, essentially. I'm not sure I entirely agree with that, but I think there is an argument there. So this is like, so that's a lot of negative when we're trying to say something positive. And I think that what we're trying to say that's positive is it's a step in the right direction. Wargaming have committed that they will publish the drop rates of the containers. They will make the high value prizes directly purchasable, which is something that we've also said in the past. Like, don't roll the boxes for the ship that you want. Just buy it, because you're likely to spend less money doing it that way. So that's all good. That's all a good thing. Despite the fact that we've just spent 10 minutes moaning, that's all the stuff that we don't like that they are trying to fix. And they're doing it before they're forced to do it by law, which is a good thing.
Yeah, no, actually, that's the thing in the background, that people who are aware of the legal proceedings in various countries are finally starting to see this movement against this sort of monetization. I think it's probably less in games like World of Warships and World of Tanks. Another one that I've seen in British news that got a lot of notice was FIFA. But then you think, how many more kids play FIFA?
Well, yeah, this is the thing. Like, it's not just kids that are vulnerable to problem gambling.
No,
like,
absolutely. But it's easier to justify to politicians about children.
Yes,
all I'm saying is, I would, and I'm not a psychologist, I would imagine that if you've been exposed to that as a kid, you're far more likely to fall into problem gambling because you think it's normal and okay, than if you didn't experience that as a child. I would imagine that's the case. But I'm not a psychologist and I haven't looked at any of the research. Should caveat that.
There was a wonderful article on... I can't remember the name of the website now. There was a GambleAware. GambleAware had a lovely article about loot boxes and how they are basically gambling, and I suggest you all go look it up. It's a very interesting read.
Well, if we can find the link to that, I'll stick it in the description.
Yes, I'll go look for it now.
Cool. Yeah, you know what I think when someone they come into the Discord, right? And it like they'll be like, yeah, no, totally, I got the tier 9 premium on the first roll. Did you know those people? I got it on the first roll.
Yeah, or the third.
Yeah. Do you know what I think about that? Do you know what I think about that? I think bollocks. You know what else makes me think of bollocks? Seamless segue. Seamless. You know what else makes me think of bollocks? Manscaped. Support for StatsThonk is brought to you by Manscaped. The best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0, all across Europe. And you heard that right, there's the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer just for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code StatsBloke at manscaped.com. That totally wasn't pre-prepared. Seamless segue. This has become a bit of a meme. That's totally fine. I'm totally happy with having a joke around this. We are supported by Manscaped. It's not technically a sponsorship because there's no money involved, but they have very kindly reached out to me as the owner of the podcast and said, would you be interested in exploring a partnership? And so they have sent me, Painezor, and Killerbin all the Performance Package 4.0, which if you go to manscaped.com, you can have a look at what's in it. So we all got the main trimmer, which is the Lawnmower 4.0, which is their brand new one. We've got the Weed Whacker little nose and ear hair trimmer, and we got a bunch of other stuff as well. So I just want to go through that a little bit and talk about what we got, talk about our experiences. Now, I've got them beside me, and I'm desperately trying not to pick anything up right now because this is an audio podcast, and I need to make sure that I do it audio descriptively and not visually. So I'm going to try and resist picking anything up, but I might have to so I can describe things. So we all got the Lawnmower 4.0 as part of the package. He says immediately picking it up because it is kind of tactile. It's quite kind of nice shape. So this is I'm holding it now. This is the Lawnmower 4.0. It's a personal hair trimmer. So it's not like a head hair trimmer. If you imagine like when you go to the barbers and they have those big like Val or Babyliss, like the big head trimmers. It's not like that. It's a handheld cordless trimmer. It's about 2/3 of the width of a head hair trimmer. And the what do you call them? The tines, the prongs, like the gaps in between the bits where the blades are quite close together. And so it's specifically designed for working around smaller parts of your anatomy, parts where the skin
for you,
folds.
maybe.
There's always one. There's always one.
Sorry.
There's one. Anyway. So yeah, these are designed for working in intimate areas where the skin isn't like it is on your scalp, basically. So you would not want to take your common like barber head hair trimmers and go downstairs or anywhere like that, because like the gaps between the prongs are really, really wide. It's really easy for the skin to go between them. And you do not want that happening. And the skin safe technology, which is just a fancy way of saying the tines are really close together, and it's going to help prevent any little accidents that you might have. So we've all got this, and I've certainly tried it out. And I talked about this before when I did a read on the mainstream. I, for the last 20 years, have cut my armpit hair. I've shaved my armpit hair. And I've done that. So I started doing it with a blade, decided that wasn't a particularly good idea because it cuts too close. And then I started using my head hair trimmer. So every time I would cut my hair, I would cut my underarms. But I would cut myself all the time because it's almost impossible to hold with one hand on the trimmers and like holding your arm up in the air. It's really hard to actually keep the skin tight enough to actually do it safely. And I would regularly cut myself. And so when I got an opportunity to work with Manscaped, I was like, hell yeah. I'm not necessarily because I'm interested in using it anywhere else, but because I'm really excited about trying to use it on my underarms. And so I have, and it's genuinely much, much easier, much, much better, because it's much safer. And not only is it safer because of the way that the blades are, but it's also safer, or also more effective, because you've got an LED torch on the trimmer. When you turn it on, this bright LED torch turns on that lets you see where the hairs are. Because if you're in your bathroom, I don't know where you do your personal grooming, but probably in the bathroom. If you're in your bathroom and you've got the light, which might be quite bright, but it's still kind of, a ways away and it's shining directly on your skin, and it makes it kind of hard to see what's going on. But with the LED directly on the actual trimmer itself, it's super easy to see what you've missed. So I really, really like that feature. Another feature which is really cool is it's got replaceable blades. And so on my head hair trimmers, which I've had for years, they have metal blades, which are not replaceable, and you have to sharpen them every now and again if you want them to stay sharp. Whereas this has ceramic blades that are replaceable. So you can buy spares from Manscaped. And you just, I'm going to, for those people who are watching live, I'll clip it off. So you just push on the blade and it pops off. And it comes away nice and easily. And then you just pull the ceramic blade out, replace it with a new one, pop it back in. It takes literally 5 seconds to do that. And then you're ready to go again. So yeah, a lifetime of shaving using those replaceable blades, which is really cool. So the other things we got are, let's have a look. We got the Weed Whacker. This is a nose and ear hair trimmer. I'm holding it now. It's probably quite similar to the ones that you've seen. It's kind of got a circular blade on one end that is nice and safe. There's no way that you could cut yourself easily with this. I don't want to say it's impossible. It's going to be very, very difficult to cut yourself with this. And you shove it up your nose, you shove it in your ears, and it does its job. It's nice and simple. And it's slightly curved, so it fits nicely in your hand. It charges with a cable. I should have mentioned on the lawnmower, it's wireless, no port on it, and it goes into a charging dock, which is a USB-C charging dock. which looks like something out of a sci-fi movie. The kind of thing where you'd have like an energy crystal or a data crystal from Superman, something like that would go in here. It looks kind of sci-fi. And you just plug a USB-C cable into that, so you can just reuse your phone charger if you've got a USB-C phone charger. And it just slots in nice and easily. There's no cables to plug or unplug. It charges that way. Whereas this is just a direct cable connection. They're both waterproof, so you can use both of them in the bathroom, no problem at all, even in the shower. Don't take the charger in the shower, obviously. So that's the Lawnmower 4.0 and the Weed Whacker. And then we also got some other stuff. Have you two got your smellies?
Yes, I've got the one I've got this one with a smelly button on it. Hang on, let me pull it up my nose.
That's an unpleasant sound to hear over TeamSpeak.
Are you okay?
That's alarming.
right.
Good. Excellent.
Slightly less hairy at my nostril now.
Are you trying not to sneeze?
No.
Whenever I do that, I can't help sneezing. So have you got one hairy nostril now and one nice, like, clean, shiny
Are you
nostril?
comparing the difference, whether you prefer hair or no
He is.
hair?
You know he is. Don't think you're supposed to sniff it in.
No, I'm
I'd
just
blow it out
just
if I were you.
testing which one's better now.
Oh, I see.
Hang on. Try the other one.
Just
I can breathe better now.
well, there you go. Excellent. There is one. No, I on Instagram. There's a doc. There's a surgeon that I like his posts because he posts interesting medical information. And one of the things he posted recently was you shouldn't pluck your nose hair because it massively increases the risk of hair follicle infections, and infections in your like nose, mouth, eye triangle are really dangerous because they can potentially cause complications that can end up with brain horribleness going on. And so if you cut your nose hair, it's much, much safer. So I do, if you are currently plucking, you might want to consider switching based on his advice. Yeah, anyway, so we're going to do, now that Painezor can smell better, we're going to do a smell test.
What was that one in the back? That one was
What was
killer.
that? That's the meteor. That sounded like the lawnmower,
Yeah, that
not
was
the lawnmower.
that was entirely just for Twitch chat's benefit.
Okay.
So what are you going to shave?
Absolutely not.
Painezor shaved something. What are you going to shave?
I don't trust my own hands.
Okay. So we're going to do a live smell test, right? So those of you who are watching live will be able to see me doing this, but we'll try and be as audio descriptive as possible. So two of the things that are in the performance pack, which comes in a lovely leather bag, which I'm showing now to the people who are actually watching live. It's a little like travel wash bag. I think it's real leather. It smells of leather. It's nice and sturdy. It's got a good zip. It's got a handle. You could definitely use this for like your shower gel and your toothbrush and everything else when you travel. You just need to take this with you. That's it. And obviously you can take your trimmers with you as well if you wanted to. This does have a travel lock, by the way. You can triple click the button on the Lawnmower 4.0 and it will stop it from activating until you triple click it again, which is really nice to know if you are flying, because if your bag starts vibrating, not only will everyone look at you funny, but you also might get pulled aside and given an interesting interview. So, so that's a really handy feature. Okay, so in that bag, we have Manscaped Crop Preserver, Ball Deodorant, and we have Manscaped Crop Reviver Ball Toner. Gentlemen, which one would you like to try first?
I have
Don't
no
look once.
preference.
You have no preference. Let's do the ball toner first. So the toner comes in a. Is it funny when I say ball? Ball toner. This one is like a light fluid. We were kind of talking before the stream actually. This is kind of analogous to aftershave. It's kind of that kind of consistency and spray. That was quite a lot.
I'm supposed to spray it.
Yeah. Spray it.
I screwed off the top and
preferably
sniffed
not preferably not up your nose.
Oh, hang on.
I'd spray it on the back of your hand if you like. No,
Don't spray it,
don't
that's probably really dangerous.
don't do that at home.
Okay.
Painezor is a trained
I didn't.
stunt person. Back of your hand.
Okay. Back of my
And then-
hand. Which
and then-
one's the back of
and
my
then-
hand? Not my
It's
palm.
the one that looks like Malta.
I've just squirted myself.
It's actually pretty wet.
Well, yeah. I've got a
Okay,
microphone.
and smell. So a lot of men's fragrance, particularly aftershaves, they kind of punch you in the face. This doesn't do that. It's
I'm trying to
quite.
figure out what it's supposed to smell like.
I've been thinking about this for like 2 weeks, and I can't put a name to it. It's
Is one of them like sandalwood or something?
yeah, I think there's definitely sandalwood in there. I want to say
chat, if you would
tobacco.
like
I want to
know-
say like tobacco and sandalwood. Yes, if you want to know what this smells like, head over to manscaped.com where you can get 20% off, and you too can spray
Find
it on
out
the back
what
of your hand and
Stats
sniff it.
balls smell like.
Yes, and Painezor's nose. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with sandalwood and tobacco. It's a very manly scent, but it's not like punch you in the face strong. It's very, very pleasant. I really like it. And the other one, which is a deodorant cream, basically. So this is a bit like same sort of consistency as a moisturizer or a suntan lotion. This one's got a similar kind of smell to it, and this is designed as an anti-chafing, whereas the other one I think is designed as sort of a post-shave soother. This one is more like to prevent chafing. You know, if you're going for a walk or a run or a workout or whatever.
We all know what it's like to have chafing.
This one's a little bit more citrus. It's a similar base scent, but it's got more of an acidic, citrusy kind of flavor to it.
I'm trying to smell it, but I'm also trying to like not get this white creamy stuff up my nose.
Uh-huh.
We're
Someone
trying
please-
to keep this level.
Someone please. No, we're not. We're not.
We're trying.
No, we're not.
Because we know he's
Let's
going to
face
do
it.
this.
Get us three together to talk about nuts. It's not gonna. No, sorry, no. Yeah. So, you don't have to use it downstairs. Obviously, you could use that stuff wherever you like. I've actually been using the deodorant cream as a deodorant. I've actually been using it on my arms because it's actually smells really nice.
Like, it smells nice, and it's not just specific. You can use it elsewhere.
Yeah. That's nice. It's a nice scent. Like, you know when like someone walks past you and they've like sprayed like tons and tons of deodorant or aftershave on them. You're like, it's not that kind of smell. It's just like if someone walked past you wearing that, you'd be like, oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's good.
Are you saying that I use too much deodorant? Not deodorant.
Yes, I can smell you from
Someone on
here.
Belfast did. I remember that much. I remember walking into one of the compartments and basically almost passing out.
That was me.
Yes. Anyway, as well as the smellies, there's also like I haven't got it here, but there's also a newspaper basically, and the idea of the newspaper is not only is it funny to read, but you all can also take the pages out and you can lay them on the floor and you can use them as a shaving mat to catch hair.
Ah, that's what that's for.
Yeah, that's all that's for.
It's got a little crossword puzzle in it.
Yeah, you can just read it like a newspaper. Put it in your bathroom. Use it for when you're otherwise engaged. Bit of reading material. But yeah, no, it's designed as a shaving mat. So you don't have to, I suppose particularly if you've got carpet, so you don't have to hoover the carpet. And then also there's, I think currently in the pack, check the website because I'm not entirely 100% sure exactly what's in the pack. Because I don't think the t-shirt that we got is included, but I think the boxer shorts are. So there's a pair of like light breathable anti-chafing boxer shorts, which I actually haven't tried yet. But luckily, I know a man who has. Killerbin.
They work.
They work. They hold your bits in. Yes. No. They certainly feel very soft.
You can't walk around quietly in them.
Oh, really?
No, they do make noise as you're walking around.
I guess that's the material. Is that just your excuse that you had beans for lunch or something? Oh no, it's the boxer shorts. It's totally the boxer shorts. It's not me. Yeah. Okay. So to wrap that up, you can get 20% off and free shipping with the code StatsBloke, which is, if you're watching on the screen right now, StatsBloke, just my channel name, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com using code StatsBloke. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped, who are supporting today's podcast. Thank you very much for allowing us to do that little supported segment. That is, of course, an advertisement. Okay. Is everyone okay to carry on? Do we need a little break? Are we okay?
I'm good.
You're good. You're fine. You try not to laugh.
Dick jokes.
You got a super squeaky. Editing this is going to be fun. So, okay, Painezor's got the giggles. Can I make you? I know how to bring you down off your high. Submarines.
Why do you do this?
Sorry, it's the next topic. Okay, so when we asked you guys questions about, well, I asked you 4 questions. As said, the 2 main topics were King of the Sea, and then the other main topic was submarines. You are all apparently, judging by the people that did submit questions, you are very interested in what's going on currently with submarines, the future of submarines, and how they're being introduced to the game. Killerbin, you wrote the first blurb there. Do you want to just sort of talk around what you were saying in the notes? Has he gone for a drink?
He's dead.
No, I was having to scroll down and find the right spot. But yeah, so
it's just underneath the balls.
Yes, indeed. I've found it.
You have spots
under the
underneath your
balls.
balls. You need some anti-chafing cream.
You do.
So, I'm sure everyone here who's with us on Twitch or watching this later has seen, subs have been in testing for, 2 years at this point. There's been so many different variations, and then eventually, we all know it was going to happen. They hit live. There had been some changes to remove the exploitive gameplay that we saw in the sort of PTS testing, the dolphining and all that. And then they change all that, get rid of that, and then destroyers, the ships intended to fight submarines, suddenly became the worst ships to fight submarines in. Whereas the battleships ended up being the best.
We've got a bunch of questions that are going to extract our thoughts on this, but I had a bit of a shock recently. Actually, 2 shocks, because I'd played at least the tests that you could play as a normal player. So all the TST testing, PTS testing, the live testing, going all the way back to the original Halloween event. I've done every single test that I could lay my hands on. And the whole way through that, submarines were what you would kind of envisage a submarine as being. That kind of silent hunter-ish, submarine movie, sneaky, tracking a target. It doesn't know you're there. Oh no, I've been spotted, run away. Depth charges, if you get spotted, you're dead. And if you don't get spotted, you have a good time and you kill things. That's kind of what they were like for a lot of the time. And they went through various iterations of, you can surface, you can't surface. You've got various kinds of energy that you can use up that kept getting renamed as they changed it. But the basic premise was always the same. And then suddenly, they hit live for ranked. And I didn't understand them anymore suddenly because they changed to be something completely different. I think it's a consequence of the fact that they don't really fit into the meta, and we'll get into that in a minute. So Wargaming have made these massive changes to try and make them fit, which don't fit the idea that's in your head. So then you have this disparity between what you think a submarine should be and what it actually is in the game, and they just do not mesh at all. And that to me creates this horrible dissonance in my head where I want to go sneaking around the edge of the map and tracking things for hours on end and staying quiet, and that's just not how they play. And that's a disappointment to me, because I really like the idea of that sort of stereotypical submarine idea. But this is a kind of fast-paced arcadey style game that idea of submarines just doesn't really fit into. And then the second shock sorry to take up all the airtime. The second shock was I was playing, so that was me playing in ranked, and I just couldn't get them to work the way I wanted to get them to work, and I just basically threw my teddies out and quit, and didn't play ranked again. And then the second shock was I've basically not noticed them when I've been playing random battles, just almost completely ignoring. And then one day I was playing a lot of destroyers for some reason on someone else's stream, and I remember specifically I was in a Z52. I was on a cap. I went into the cap, and I like overextended a little bit. Like I was in a cap that was quite busy. There was a radar covering it. It was a carrier game, and so I got spotted, like normally spotted by a radar, by the planes, whatever it was. And so I'd been shot at. I was on fire. I think my rudder broke or something. I pressed my damage control like you would normally do, and tried to escape around the island. Then I realized there's a submarine in the cap with me. And it taught me, it pinged me, it double pinged me, and because I'd already used my DCP, I couldn't get rid of the double ping. And those torpedoes chased me around an island, and I could not dodge them. I'm a reasonably good destroyer player, and I could not dodge those torpedoes because they stop homing with a double ping at 120 meters. Go in, that sounds like a long way. You go into the game, go to your gun view in any ship, preferably a destroyer, and put your reticule on the surface of the water, and you see how far away 120 meters is. It's literally next to your ship.
For those of you who struggle with math, it is not 1.2 kilometers, it is 0.1 kilometers.
0.12 kilometers. That is how close they go with a double ping. 0.24 kilometers with one ping, which is still ridiculously close. If you're in a destroyer, they're undodgeable. And what I find really stupid... Sorry, I'm on my rant now. What I find really dumb is that if you're in a battleship... I can't remember what the distance is off the top of my head. It's considerably larger.
2.1.
2.1 kilometers. There you go. 2.1 kilometers for a battleship. If you are an intelligent battleship player...
my nose.
If you're an intelligent battleship player, you know there's a submarine over there somewhere, especially because it's just pinged you and you saw where the ping came from. Because obviously the ping is like radio location, you know where it came from. You turn into the torpedoes, or you turn away from the torpedoes so that you're not broadside to them. Like you would do with the destroyer. Like, oh, there's a Shimakaze over there, I should probably do something about that. You turn. If you do that, and you keep moving, it's very, very easy to dodge those torpedoes. Like, really easy. Because they stop homing a considerable time away from your ship. I find the fact that a submarine is more dangerous to a destroyer, which should be its nemesis and like should be terrified of a destroyer. The fact that a submarine is more dangerous to a destroyer, and a destroyer has more to fear from a submarine than a battleship does, is utterly, utterly ridiculous.
You know why, right? It's because we all complained that submarines were going to overload destroyers. What they have to do. So everybody complained about destroyers having to go kill them, right? So it was like, all right, we're going to listen to your feedback, and now it's like, oh yeah, now submarines murder destroyers. Wait, that's not what we meant. Yeah.
So I think what it is like I said, they tried to make them into the sort of silent hunter, sneaky kind of submarines, but because that takes too long. And the games just don't last long enough. Most games last like 12 to 15 minutes. And initially the submarines were quite slow and that kind of thing. In order to make them work, they've had to turn them into something completely different, which is kind of analogous to, I think what they've done is they've tried to turn them into the torpedo version of a gunboat destroyer, where you stick your face aggressively into a load of other stuff and you come out, either you're dead having killed a load of stuff, or you come out having killed a load of stuff and you're still alive. But you have to be very aggressive. Because that's the only way that they can fit into the meta. And so it's like they're like, they've got a round hole and a square peg, and they're like, okay, well, we'll just hit it harder then. Or like, we'll drill the hole out and make it the right shape. Anyway, should we go through now? I have my rant, which I'm guessing is fairly similar to a rant that you two might have had. Let's go through the questions. Okay. Now, I've answered the first one already, so I'm going to ask you to. What do you think of the current implementation of submarines in random battles specifically?
I think they should go away.
What is it that you don't like?
Everything.
Is there anything that I just said that you disagree with, or is there anything that you would like to add?
Okay, define current implementation, because we have a load of devlog changes that haven't been implemented yet.
They're not that extreme, though.
They are.
I think that,
some of them are.
Really?
Yeah, like, I can't even remember. What's like this?
So the changes were the homing torpedoes will do less damage.
They'll be magnetic. Or you have the option of being magnetic.
Yeah, well, the homing torps, or you have the other set of torps, which don't guide, which will do a lot more damage. So you've got low damage torps to fight off submarines and agile cruisers, and if you can catch a big battleship or a heavy cruiser, then the other subs will do more damage.
So what they're doing with that magnetic no homing change is they are increasing the skill, what I call the skill slope of the ship. They are making it much easier for good players to do more damage. That's the problem I have with that change. Is that the players who are currently really good in submarines, who understand how they work really well, who can also play destroyers really well and aim their torpedoes really well, because they understand how people tend to move, which is critical for hitting torpedoes. You understand when that battleship is going to stop, when it's going to turn, when it's likely to turn around. They're going to suddenly be able to land all these high damage magnetic torps.
You still have to get the ping off, though, and that gives reaction time additional to your regular torpedo reaction time. So
there's no ping for the magnetic.
Yes, there is.
Oh, is there? What does it do?
It gives it the citadeling potential.
Oh, okay.
So it starts off with like relatively low damage, then you ping, and you don't get the increased speed, but you do get the increased damage and negation of torp. It's too.
But that is going to be harder than the homing torps, though.
Yeah. Basically, it's putting them into guided torps against what should be the anti-sub ships and higher damage torps versus the targets that a sub would be expected to go after.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, hopefully it will enable them to be played in a bunch of different ways, because that's the problem I have, is that when they were put into ranked initially, and they were like only effective when they were played super aggressively, and then they changed it again, so they were even more effective when they were played super aggressively against destroyers. It kind of meant that you were funneling down into only being able to be played one way, which is a bad thing. And so if that change enables you to play them more effectively in a variety of ways, that's a good thing. Yeah. Might be right. Killerbin, what do you think about main randoms?
Well, I'm a battleship main, so this whole patch they haven't bothered me, because I'm ironically playing the ship best suited to counter them.
Yes, because it makes all of the sense in the world that a battleship...
I spent 7 minutes fighting a U-251 in a Vermont, and I won.
During all the tests, I deliberately played battleships, because everyone's like, oh my god, like battleships have... This was before the ASW. Battleships have no counterplay. Oh my god, it's just going to send all the battleships to the back. I didn't have a single submarine in any of the tests even vaguely worry me in a battleship. They've never been a threat to battleships. Maybe this magnetic torp thing will make them one.
I mean, I've always saw them as somewhat worse pan-European DDs.
Yeah.
Yeah, until your entire flank dies and there's one chasing you, and, you know...
But like I said, I never had those issues.
I did this morning, that was fun.
Solo, in battleships, the sub was never a problem, because, as we've said, because of bizarre balancing choices, I was in the best ship to deal with them. So long as the sub was spotted for me...
Yeah, getting the sub spotted is the problem, but yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's the part I agree. And the dev blog on the changes is doing stuff about that. Was it sub-spotting something else? There have been too many sub-changes. My head hurts.
Yeah, they've done it so that they're not changing hydro and radar spotting. They are changing direct spotting. So it's
changing
something like...
spotting.
Yeah, it's something like if you... I should probably open the article, but it's something like if you... Currently, you can spot things at operational depth, you won't be able to. So basically, you have to be at periscope or surface to be able to see things without your hydrophone. Which I don't have a problem with. I think that's fine because that makes sense that a submarine that's underwater can't see anything. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. So Templar also asks, which I think we've kind of already answered, do you think they are balanced, take that as you like, in terms of spotting damage output and being able to dive but still spot? So that one we've just addressed, that is going to change with the upcoming changes, which I assume are going in 10.10, although they haven't said what the submarines are going to be doing in 10.10, if anything. Because they certainly haven't said they're going to be in ranked.
They haven't said they're not going to be in ranked.
No, they haven't said they're not going to be, but they haven't said they are going to be.
Yeah, well, I think they want to not pollute their testing data for the new super ships. Yeah.
Yes, maybe.
Can't wait for super ships.
Even though they would end up playing together, and so you would think they probably should test them together. Can
I just take a second? Actually, I'll point out in a bit. There's another question that will go well with.
Sure. So the problem I have with submarines is it's a bit like the problem that a lot of people have with carriers, and I have with carriers to a certain extent, and that is that you're Killerbin, you're in your probably Monarch because he's the only one who plays it, and your Vanguard, and you're pushing through the middle of the map because you're Killerbin. And you're minding your own business. You're shooting this cruiser. You're shooting that battleship. You're just having a good time. And then the carrier turns up, and it hits you, and it goes away again. And the submarines are kind of the same thing. You completely ignore them. They are right next to you doing stuff, and then you kind of deal with it, and then it's gone. Or you have a battle where it's just you never have an interaction with them, and it's almost like they're playing this other game, and then very occasionally their game intersects your game.
They are playing a completely different game. There's nothing.
That's
talking about the carriers though, but
but that's what it feels like. It feels like there's this occasionally they just kind of come and interfere with your game, and you're like, look, go away, and you don't feel like you're really playing together. I think that's the problem. I think that is the issue that a lot of people have. I think with carriers, it's specifically this issue of I can't shoot back. Is when you drill into why people don't like carriers and you keep asking questions, what you eventually get down to is I don't like them because I can't shoot back. And the submarines, to a certain extent, I think, fall into the same kind of category. But they're probably closer to being something like a stealthy torpedo destroyer, where it's there, but you can't really do anything about it. Because if you can't see it, you can't do anything about it. And while, as a destroyer player, so if I'm playing a Shimakaze or something, I enjoy that. I enjoy sneaking around the back and not being spotted and trying to skirt the edge of detection and things like that. But for the people that you're playing against, is that fun?
Well, I've had this described to me as, okay, so carriers ruin everybody's game, whereas the submarine ruins one specific guy's game, but he really ruins that one specific guy's game.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Which is why you get this, which exactly mirrors what I'm saying. Either you go in and you just don't have any interaction with the submarine, so you just completely ignore them 9 games out of 10. Or as you said, you suddenly you'll be in the middle of doing, this is the experience I have with submarines. You'll be in the middle of doing something. It's a really tense situation. It's kind of am I going to die? Am I not going to die? This is going to be cool. This is going to be fun. And then you hear bling-a-ling-a-ling. You're like, oh, no, not you. Not here. Not now. That's not fun to me.
No, but it would be a lot more fun if we replaced that noise with a Discord ping.
Look. Yeah, that's true.
Somebody's going to make that mod. Somebody is. Don't care who. Somebody make that mod.
Can it be an ICQ ping? That'd be funny.
Calm down, Granda.
Yeah, I don't think they fit well.
You don't?
Okay, so does the question that you were going to go to fit well here?
Not yet. I'll just go ranting into it when I
okay.
When I what the point
so,
was.
Next question from Templar's asked a lot of questions. Thank you, Templar. Templar has also asked, and given that Wargaming have given the class a popularity metric, and he quotes 5 to 8%, I'm not sure if that was the figure that was quoted, but it sounds about right. Do you think we will see constant needless buffs and nerfs like we've already seen with the carrier rework over the past 2 years? Presumably, I think Templar means there in order to maintain that 5 to 8% popularity, regardless of their in-match performance.
Well, I think it was because, and as you experienced when it happened, and we all did as well, that how the carrier rework, was certainly a case of they will be out on this day, come hell or high water, and damn the game balance, and we suffered for 4 months.
Yeah, that's kind of how it feels with submarines anyway. They're just, yeah.
I don't think it's that bad.
They're here. They're already here.
But that's the difference. That's the playing referee for a second.
Yeah.
That's the difference between you two. Killerbin is a battleship main, and so hasn't really noticed them.
Pretty much.
Painezor is a destroyer main, and so has absolutely noticed them. Because you're at the front playing alongside the submarines.
Alongside them. No, I'm playing in a different game to them. I just flying
which occasionally intersects and ruins it. Yeah, exactly. So
they could have been released in a much worse balancing state had they decided to adopt the same release strategy as carriers. Of on this day, regardless of the condition, there you go, and then we spend the next 8 patches balancing them.
No, not 8 patches. It's been 24 now.
And not all of them contain carrier balancing.
I'll just remind you, in January, in a few weeks, it will be 3 years since the carrier rework.
36.
And we're still bitching.
Years.
Yeah, because they're clearly in a fit state for the game.
So specifically, to answer Templar's question, if you look at carrier, so that 4 to 8, it's actually 4 to 8. That 4 to 8% popularity goal is the same goal as carriers. That's where they get that from. They're like, we want this to be about the same as carriers. Problem is that the popularity of carriers varies drastically as you go up through the tiers. So I'd be very interested to know how they're going to deal with that, like 6 versus 8 versus 10 in terms of the tiers. Because if you go into a tier 4 game, almost every single game is going to be double carrier or at least one carrier because they're much, much more popular down there than they are at, say, tier 10. Where you might have a carrier every third game. But the fact that there's no tier 4 might help a little bit. But the thing is, wargaming can do a little bit with the queue in order to control the number of submarines in a match and the number of matches that have submarines in them. Because if they turn out to be too popular, they can just simply say, okay, we'll limit the number of submarines, or we'll guarantee that like every other game doesn't have submarines in it, or something like that, which increases the queue time for submarine players, which makes them less popular because you have to wait longer. They won't want to do that though, but that is an option that's open to them. The other aspect, I think, is match influence. So if there are, all other things being equal, if the submarines don't have much match influence and you can't be very successful in them, you're less likely to play them. And I think this is what Templar is getting at. Like, if they're too popular, will they nerf them? I think what Templar is afraid of is, if they're not popular enough, will they just buff them to make them popular?
I know in one of the devlogs regarding the subs, they did say something along the lines of, like, I think it was in the same devlog where they said the 4 to 8%, like, about the same as carriers. They did say something to the effect of, if they're on the lower end of the popularity, they won't panic buff. But if submarines fall down to like a 2% popularity rate, like they're in one game in 4, the vast majority of the players will love that, but wargaming will buff them. So it's up to players, to keep the popularity at about 5%, so they don't do anything stupid.
So your game needs you, chat. Play your submarines.
Briefly.
Yeah.
You don't have to like it.
What this means, right, is all we need to do is make people suffer through the double tier 4 carrier games, right? And then you get to tier 6, then you get to suffer through the double submarine games.
It's going to do wonders for player retention.
Which means that all of the people who want to play the game and not have their gameplay ruined by carriers and submarines can stay up at 7, 8, 9, 10. Done. That's a perfectly stupid answer to this situation. Let's do that. Why does nobody want to play lower tiers?
Because the missions don't work that low. I don't mind double carriers at tier 4. I don't like the fact that I can't do missions at tier 4.
I have said many times I do not understand what Wargaming are doing with tier 1 to 4. In terms of encouraging player retention, I do not get it. And in a free-to-play game. Anyway, that's another discussion. I think we've already answered Templar's our last question, which was, Templar says, I'm aware that they are making changes to the torpedoes. This is the whole thing we're talking about changing to a switchable homing versus magnetic non-homing torpedo choice during the match, like the super destroyers can. That submarines can use. Do you think these changes were necessary? I think we answered that. My answer was maybe it will diversify the gameplay and allow them to fit into more niches in the meta, which is a good thing. What do you two think?
I don't think.
Killerbin?
I'd have to experience.
Does it worry you as a Battleship player with the introduction of the non-homing magnetic torpedo concept?
Well, if they're non-homing, I can still dodge.
Right.
It's just dealing, like, it moves my opinion of subs to go from annoying, weak panny UDDs to somewhat annoying Japanese destroyers.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Okay. Andrew asked somewhat flippantly, does anyone think that submarines are good for the game in their current iteration? And what would you change to make them fun and engaging to play with and against?
I would make them better against heavy ships and weaker against small ships. And someone in St. Pete's likes them because we've got them.
So to answer the first question, I've done a couple of polls over the past few weeks and months, and every poll I've ever seen that's done by the community, although usually they have quite a leading question, tends to have the vast majority of people saying that they don't like submarines, or they don't want them to be introduced, or whatever the phrasing of the question is. So no, I think the majority of players who engage in the community, which is a very important point to make, don't like them. I would be very, very interested to know how the casual player who doesn't read any news articles, doesn't watch Twitch, doesn't watch YouTube, doesn't read anything, only logs in like once at the weekend to play a couple of games and then logs out again and goes back to looking after the kids. What does that player think of them? That's an interesting question.
The Kingpin rant.
You saying that Kingpin only logs in like once on the Saturday?
No, Kingpin made that rant once to me about like how the game isn't made for us; it's made for those guys.
Of course, it's not. This community that we have is only a very small slice of the player base, and what we think is not necessarily. It might be, but it's not necessarily the same as what the casual player thinks.
The casual player's wrong. My opinion and my community's opinion is what our communities are right. And the ones that aren't members of our community aren't going to hear this, so they don't get to be wrong. So it's like, we are right. We are right.
And Alexander Webb, there were no more people to rent to.
So, and the second part of Andrew's question is, what would you change? Is a very difficult question because the whole point is submarines are not a good fit for the meta if submarines are to be like they are in your head when you think of submarines.
I think the best way to change submarines, right? You change the fact that they exist to the fact that they don't exist, and then I think that'd be a pretty healthy experience.
There must be like a flag in the code somewhere that says like exist equals 1. So all St. Pete's needs to do is just go into that, edit one line of code, change exists equals 0. Problem solved. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes, but to change that line of code is a rather large sum of money that one has to pay to make up for all the R&D costs that they put into making subs.
A sunk cost fallacy.
You mean like the St. Petersburg camera? Wait, what? No, that was a different question.
Yes, that is literally a logical fallacy. How much money you have spent on something does not justify its continued existence in any way. And if the player base hates them, which they may or may not do, but if the player base hates them, just because you spent so many $1 million on it is irrelevant. Because if your game dies because of it, that's not a good decision.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair to say all three of us are opposed to submarines, but we're not militant. Though
I'm militant.
Payne's closer to militant.
It's always militant. I'm more in the. I don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, from my standpoint, it's even though I haven't been directly a victim of them, because I know people who play the other classes who are telling me that this is having a massive impact on their enjoyment of the game. I would rather the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And at the moment, the subs are the few.
Yeah, it's like so Andrew, like how to change them to make them fit is a very, very difficult thing to do. Because you're talking about like fundamental game design and trying to add something in which doesn't fit in a way where it would fit, which is kind of like saying, how do you fit a square peg in a round hole? And I'm not sure it's even possible. Talseneg asks, let's lift the mood slightly. Talseneg says, even though the subclass release has been generally seen as a negative addition to the game, which I think we would all agree with, is there anything positive to come out of subs being added to the game? Cue snarky remark from Painezor.
No. No. Hang on, let me think.
The possibility of the eventual inclusion of a Tier 8 British submarine called Tally Ho.
No. I mean, the Halloween mode was fun.
Halloween mode was fun. I think so. Durex asked a question as well, which
that's
is
the
about.
one I want to rant about.
Yeah. So there's do you want to talk about the missed opportunity? I'm guessing. So
sort of.
Yeah. So recently we had convoy mode, and I think there was a missed opportunity there. I think they could have made that subs versus convoys in some way, where you have a pack of submarines who's trying to hunt a player escorted bunch of bots or something. That could have been enormous fun, because that's essentially kind of the concept of the original Halloween mode, where you've got a bunch of player controlled submarines going to go and do something.
So the rant that I've had over and over is that submarines would have fit perfectly in Brawl. No, well, Brawl, sure, whatever. You could do Brawls. That's not what I meant, though. Operations. There's convoys. I suppose if you really want co-op. But instead, what we got is we got two patches, right? Where the only modes that the submarines were not available in were training rooms, convoys, and operations. Random battles had them, ranked had them, co-op had them, yeah. So basically, the exact opposite of what I would have liked. You can't use them in a training room, you can't use them in a convoy, you can't use them in operation. The three modes where I would be fine having a submarine. No. Have them in ranked and randoms, though. Yeah. Yeah. I genuinely do not understand it. Yeah.
Now, most of you will know that I'm not a PvE player. I'm not a big fan of operations. I'll play them once to get the rewards, and that's it. I'm done. Because I find the repeatability very low. But a submarine, like a PvP submarine convoy thing, I would be all over that. I would love that. That'd be cool. PvE submarine convoy mode, like the original Halloween mode, I really enjoyed that original Halloween mode. It's one of the only PvE modes in the game I've actually enjoyed. The other one would be Operation Dynamo. And so I think that would be, if it can persuade me to play, and I'm not a PvE player, I think that would actually be quite popular, especially if they attach some good rewards to it. So yeah, I like Painezor, I just don't get it. Like, why?
I don't think any of us get it. Like, why convoy mode didn't have subs in it. It did seem like a serious missed opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's like, I don't know, they wanted to focus their efforts on like because usually the argument they come out with in this kind of situation is, oh well, random battles is our main thing in the game and read into that. That's our main source of income. It's our main revenue generator. So that's what we wanted to focus on, which is business. Makes total sense. But as a player, it's just kind of like, oh man, you had this opportunity to do something really cool and you just didn't.
And you would have kept everybody who's been complaining about it happy as well, because like everybody who wants the submarines can go to convoys. Everybody who doesn't want them cannot go to convoys and not have to deal with them. And it's
And also, as like a PR job, which I think Wargaming are incredibly bad at doing PR. If you can introduce the submarines in a way like the original Halloween mode, where feedback on that mode was predominantly and overwhelmingly positive, a load of people enjoyed playing that. If you can introduce the submarines in a mode which doesn't impact random battles, doesn't impact ranked, but is enjoyable, approachable, playable, and fun, there'll be some people who are maybe on the fence about submarines who become converts and become proponents of submarines. Because like, oh yeah, I tried that mode out, it's really cool. Oh, they come into randoms. Oh, that's kind of cool. Like, rather than the current stance, which would probably be like, why are they, why are these here? So I just think it's in many, many ways, I think it was a missed opportunity. So to go back to Talsnake's question. Is there anything else that comes as positive out of submarines? I mean, there are some aspects of playing submarines which are kind of fun. I have actually had fun playing a submarine. Not very often, but I have. Because some of the visuals are really cool. Some of the gameplay is pretty cool. I have had some moments where I'm like, oh, yeah, that's quite kind of fun. So yeah, there are some positives. I want to say they're like negatives, but they're just awkward. That's like, if I had to choose one word which summed up the whole thing around submarines, it's awkward. Misfit.
So, off stream, I played a little bit of Submarines with Henning. Right? So, like, because obviously, if I'm not streaming, I can just, like, have a bit of a mess around or whatever. And the fun that I had in that game was specifically laughing at how stupid the mechanics were. Like, because being able to dev strike was a Yoshino and then Z52, and just watching as there was literally nothing that they could do because they'd already burned their Damacon because I sent a single set of torpedoes at them and pinged them and had to do it for that. And then it's just, oh, look, free dev strike now. And just being like, just laughing at how stupid the mechanics were it's not fun with the game, it's fun at the game. That's the only fun I've had with the submarines, is laughing at how ludicrous their implementation is. That's not a good sign.
What you're describing is actually very similar to the situation where if you're facing a Conqueror, Thunderer, Lion, something like that that's got high fire chance, it's the same thing where there's this window that ship can create on its own without any help from anyone else, where they create a window where there's no counterplay. So with the fires, it's, okay, Lion, Conqueror, whatever, sets 3 fires on you. You Damacon because you have to. And then they immediately get 2 or 3 more fires on you. And that's it. Tough, It's kind of like that where, you torp the destroyer. Sorry, the submarine pings you. You use your DCP because you don't want to get the homing torps on you. And then there's this period of time where the submarine is still there. And it's got a fairly fast reload. Or it saves some torpedoes, and it can then just torp you at will. That to me, especially when you add to that the situation that I had with that Z52 game, where the submarine is not the only thing that can cause you to use your damage control party. That to me is the most annoying thing. Why they added something to DCP that it has to, like an extra thing that it has to deal with in a game where the meta is all about fires. Just baffles me.
Hey, Killerbin, how's this for an idea for a division? We take the Tier 10 German submarine and 2 Conquerors, and then we pick one guy.
We can do that after the podcast is finished.
We could literally do that after the podcast is finished.
Just pick one guy on the enemy team.
We can't, because Stats hasn't got a conch. He's got a Thunderer.
He's got a submarine.
I've got a submarine. I've never played the Tier 10 submarines, but I could. just to demonstrate how ridiculously easy it would be.
Just spam ping him, make him burn his Damacon, and we're just
That's it. That's the other thing. Like, so not only is the submarine helping itself, but if you force a Damacon on something that's not burning, and you've got two div mates, like you're saying, who are in fire setters, you can go, "Hey lads, like dinner served." And meanwhile, the submarine goes to work on the next ship. Like, hey, the Yoshino's just Damaconed as well.
I like this plan. I'm fully in favor of this plan.
I think we've just invented the most disgusting division in the history of the game.
Let's do this.
I mean, we could take an FDR.
Ooh, FDR, third sub.
Do we have no shame?
Sorry, we're all just salivating at the thing. And this is the problem. There will be groups of players who are essentially bored, who will go around doing this. Good, technically knowledgeable players who are able to make that work and just ruin people's day. That shouldn't be a thing. Okay, so Pret asks, with submarines now added to the game as a new class, would torpedo boats work in World of Warships, maybe with squadron mechanics taken from carriers and a tender/auxiliary as a player-controlled ship on the map?
How do you mean?
Unlikely,
I don't know
no.
we can't ask Brett what he means, but
I think I know what he means.
I'm like, I like the idea of like from the Operation Dynamo mode, the little Schnell boots.
That's what I think he means by torpedo boats.
Yeah, I like the idea of an operation which has player controlled Schnell boots. That seems like a lot of fun to me.
If they weren't going to increase the team sizes to add subs, they won't increase it for something like that. So I don't think it would work in randoms. But in operations or a separate game mode, yes, it has possibilities.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind playing 80 knot DDs just with a single gun shooting each other. That'd actually be really fun.
So I think what Prep probably means is like you've got like a mothership of some kind, and you park that somewhere, and then you can launch. Whether it would be like one ship that you control that has a bunch of ducklings that follow it. Yeah, surface carrier.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Surface carriers.
Yeah. So then you launch a boat, a bunch of these little fast zippy single torpedo things. And maybe like you control the one at the front. Essentially it acts like a ship, but it's a flock.
So one Thunderer salvo takes them all down.
Conceptually it could work, but I'm not sure if players would accept that going into random battle.
I mean, apparently we do AoE damage to submarines now with AP, so I'm sure you can do the same thing to these.
Yeah. But I'm really hopeful that eventually they will allow player-controlled torpedo boats, the really fast ones, in some kind of operation, because that just like shooting them was fun. Like I love that operation where you got like these really fast boats coming towards you. Like, oh crap, it's really small, I can't hit it. That was kind of fun.
So basically, you would just take a load of V25s, turbocharge them.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
And then run at stuff. That sounds like fun. Yeah. But yeah, whether that would fit into random battles, I don't know. And then finally, Dirac asks, could a series of operations be made to take advantage of the existence of submarines? And would that then will be able to apply to motor torpedo boats and motor gun boats? Especially if they were considered not viable for randoms, and would this be a good route to go down to expand operations? I think we just covered that.
Short answer, yes, but also I have a long answer for this one. There should definitely be a series of single-player operations in this game as a replacement for the current quote-unquote tutorial system we have now, with low tiers being full of bots. Your first line in the game as a carrier, you should have to go through a series of operations alone where you are basically being taught the very basics of how CV mechanics work. You can then use this to reduce the amount of XP needed on your tier 4 carriers, which means that the matchmaking queue down at tier 4 would be less swamped by a massive pool of players who need to grind through their full tier 4 experience bonus. Do you see where I'm going with this? And then you could do the same thing for submarines, and then just never let them into random battles. You just keep them in the operation. But you get my point.
No, I do, and I have. I've been very vocal about the fact that I don't like the new player experience. I think it's really bad for player retention, and they could do a much better job of attracting players into this game that is completely reliant on player retention to stay alive. Like, literally, if players don't stay, there is no game. So, yeah, I'd be totally up for that. Okay. Have we got the submarine ranting out of our systems now? Can we move on? Anything anyone else would like to say? No?
I mean, it's not out of my system, but I'm done talking.
Okay. I feel like I've exercised some demons. Okay, so moving on. The last proper topic is update 10.10, which, by the way, is coming on, because this has been a very popular question recently, is coming on the 10th and 11th of November, as far as we know.
Yeah, the week after King of the Sea ends.
Yeah. So this is a 5-week patch. 10.9 is a 5-week patch because of the King of the Sea, probably. So, so it's coming a little bit later than you might think. And 10.10 has been through PTS. I certainly, on my stream, had a look at it. And there's quite a few interesting things in there. So let's just talk through quickly what those are and see if any of us have got any thoughts. First of all, the bit that I'm most excited about, which is the graphics changes. There's going to be universally, so on all maps, the water model is being changed. So that it looks a lot more realistic. The way that ships move through the water is being changed. They kind of bob up and down a little bit more, and they kind of rock back and forth a little bit more. Tall. And the water itself looks much more realistic, at least when you're close up to it. Also, the maps Two Brothers and Hotspot are having a complete graphics overhaul. They look, with a couple of exceptions, amazing. And those also include the underwater elements for the submarine gameplay. There's some, there's fish, there's seaweed, there's some really cool stuff underwater. And then also the Philippines and Twitch ports, which are the same port basically. And then also the St. Petersburg port are having the same kind of overhaul. Did you two actually personally log into PTS to have a look?
No.
Could
I had not, no.
Okay, so
Well,
do you saw it in my stream a little bit, maybe?
Yes, and
Well,
Yeah.
He's also a super tester, so.
Yeah, but you can't talk about his secret operations. The little chip in his neck starts beeping.
Yeah.
So I obviously I did log in personally, and for the graphics updates for the water, let's do the water first. Visually, unless you zoom out, where you can still see the what I think of as like the mown grass effect, where you can see the stripes of the texture going up and down. When you're close to it, it looks fantastic. The water surface looks really realistic. The way that they've made it, I'm not sure if this is a map specific thing, but the way they've made it kind of lap up against the rocks and stuff looks super cool. Especially in a free-to-play title, which is not known for its amazing graphics, looks really cool. On Two Brothers and Hotspot, Two Brothers looks fantastic. The new textures on like the fields and the buildings and the rocks look really cool. The beaches look really cool. It looks really, really nice.
So how much geometry changes are there? Like, is there now new firing angles or not?
I don't think it's massively changed. I was trying to look out for that. The positions of the rocks look like they're the same. It's just that I think what they've done is they've taken the wireframe and they've just painted a new set of textures over the top of it, I think. I didn't notice any significant differences, but there might be a couple.
I suppose I should go ask that on the CC discussion now.
Yeah. That's a good question, actually.
They did tell me that with the ships rolling in the water, that the hitboxes do not roll.
Yes, that's what I would expect.
Graphical.
That's what I would expect. So about the rolling looks, so that the bobbing and rolling looks cool until you realize that the pivot point is wrong. And it kind of is a bit annoying. So they've, instead of making the ships bob from their keel or like from their center of mass, they behave like they're hanging from a string and that they're rolling this way. Sorry, on the audio. So instead of bobbing like they're being pushed from underneath like a real boat does, they roll like they're hanging like a
pendulum,
like a child's
pendulum,
like mobile light. Yeah, like a pendulum. So if you like hang a boat on a string and then tap it, like that's how they move, which is wrong, and it looks wrong. So that needs a bit of a tweak. But otherwise, looks great. The other thing that I heard a couple of people point out was that occasionally the water washes over the deck in a really weird way. That doesn't look particularly realistic, but it's not that noticeable. I have a problem with hotspot.
Okay.
Those of you who are watching my stream, now I didn't log into PTS2, so I don't know whether they fixed it. I haven't heard anyone say that they have. And also in the St. Petersburg port, I had this massive problem with some kind of lens aberration, where the middle 20% of the screen was crystal clear, and then as you move out towards the edge of the screen, you end up with this sort of split image. It happens a little bit on Two Brothers, but not as much for some reason. It seems to be related to the weather effect. But on hotspot, it's really, really, really noticeable. To the extent that I almost wouldn't want to play it. It makes like the railings of your ship look really weird. Like if there was a ship off to the side of the screen, you're going to see two of them, literally, like a proper ship and then like a blue ghost ship. The mountain, like against the skyline, the mountains look super weird.
Hello, welcome to my life.
Yes, I understand, but why on earth would you give a game? What's it called? Keratoconus,
yes.
Keratoconus. Why would you give a game Keratoconus other than to make people experience it so they know what it's like?
So, fun fact, I got some new glasses today,
yes.
Right?
So what you're saying is, if I wear your glasses, I will see hotspot perfectly normally?
No. What I was about to say on a completely like wild tangent is, like, you know when you have 3D glasses and you have the little green and the red bits?
Yeah.
White and black high contrast and things. I can see like a green border on the left-hand side of things and a red border on the right-hand side of things, and it's really trippy, and it's really weird. That's all I wanted to say.
So you can see everything in 3D now. Amazing.
It's weird. Like I think like these glasses are so strong that they refract like the actual rainbow. Well, they do. That's how light works. But I didn't think that was
literally. Do they help it at all with readability or?
Well, okay. So there's a really weird problem, right? If I look in the middle of my screen, everything is fisheyed. So aiming in World of Warships is fucking impossible because you lead. You know what I mean? And if you're trying to lead at a ship that's at a slight angle, and your whole vision field is fisheyed, you can't get the correct lead on it. So it's actually better to not wear my glasses when I'm aiming, because I can just tell by the general this way the blur's going. It's really weird. Really weird.
I had this debate once so I used to do archery at university, and I had this ongoing debate with one of my archery friends. Because she wore glasses and I didn't at the time. And I was like, if you wear in theory, if you wear glasses and you do archery, wouldn't the glasses make you aim wrong? Because because the way that glasses work is they distort the image.
Yeah.
So what you're aiming at isn't actually where it is. So surely that would make you aim wrong. And we had this debate that ran for months that we never really reached a conclusion on. But needless to say, we could both aim.
Well, I think it basically depends on what you're used to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
if you're used to glasses enough, your brain calculates the offset if one such exists.
And frankly, if you need glasses so much that when you take them off, you can't see the target anyway, kind of,
hello,
it's a moot point.
Mm.
Yeah. So I really hope that chromatic aberration effect that they've added is, if it was intentional, which I'm sure it was, I hope it's removable, because frankly, if that's going to be on every single game, on every single map, I don't like that. That might actually be enough to make me stop playing the game. So I really don't like it. So I hope that they can do something about that. It seems to change severity depending on the weather effect that's applied on the map. And it was certainly less noticeable on the Two Brothers maps that I played. So I hope they can fix that, because everything else looks stunning. Really cool. Like seeing a volcano that's actually erupting on Hotspot is fantastic. It's just that if you don't look at it directly, it's all fuzzy and horrible. One of the other changes is division achievements. I think all three of us kind of like the idea of this one.
About bloody time.
Yeah.
I think we don't get anything for it.
Yeah, there's no flags or anything, but it's just an extra nice little thing, and they're loosely based around the existing solo player achievements. So sort of Confederate and things like that, but for divisions. I kind of like the idea, but it's just a shame that there's no rewards attached to them. Nothing much more to say about that one. We probably have some more to say about this one. Tier 10 only ranked with super ships. It's like a yay!
Don't play rank, so it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, and ranked to me isn't ranked anymore. It's kind of interesting that they've. I understand why they've done it tier 10 only. It's because they want to have the super ships in all three leagues. But we haven't had a new style ranked season, I think, yet that's all the same tier. So that's interesting. They haven't said whether or not submarines are going to be in there. But we are going to have Satsuma, Hanover, Condé, Annapolis, Yamagiri, and Zorki.
I mean, meh.
But
I'm excited about it.
Unlike us, you actually do ranked.
Well, so the last season of ranked, what I did was week 1, I went straight to Gold League. And then every weekend after, or every fortnight after, I just do my 15 steel wins and get me done. Like, I don't care about ranking out anymore because I can't bother with it. It's just too much grind for so little reward that I don't count it as ranked anymore. Like, ranking out in silver and ranking out in bronze is easy. Like, anyone can do that. It just takes, you just spam some battles, you rank out, you get into gold, you play your 15 wins, however many games it takes you, you're done. Like, the motivation to rank out just isn't there anymore because every 2 weeks you have to play so many games just to get a single token and a crappy box that might give you 21 of a random flag. It's just, like, compared to what it used to be, where every step that you progressed, you got steel reward, and there was actually motivation to rank out. Like, every step you got more steel, there was a reason to keep grinding ranked.
I find it very ironic that the old system had fewer stars to get to rank 1, but felt like more of an achievement.
Yes.
It's bizarre how they've managed to do that. They've made it literally 2.5, 3 times harder to get to rank 1 over and over and over again. But it doesn't feel like as much of an achievement. And I haven't heard anyone recently say, I ranked out. Like, and being, like, proud of it. Because when you used to rank out, it's like, yeah, I got to rank 1. Isn't that cool? Like, people don't say that anymore.
It was just there for the steel. Like, and with all your steel being front-loaded on wins, like, it's basically a participation prize at this point. It actually literally is a participation prize. You play ranked. It doesn't matter how good or bad you are. You play enough of it, you get your steel. What's the fucking point? Like...
Playing battles. I mean, to be frank, the more time you spend in the game, the more money you spend on it. I think that's what it comes down to. But I think for a lot of, especially old guard kind of players, ranked isn't ranked anymore. So anyway, super ships are coming to rank to all leagues. So from bronze upwards, I assume it's going to have the super ships. We do not know yet whether it's going to be submarines. I suspect not, because as Painezor said earlier, they're probably going to want to isolate the super ship testing. So make of that what you will.
Which means that when people eventually inevitably go there to avoid the submarines and randoms, they're going to be like, oh, super ships are really popular. Look how many people played rank this season. Yeah.
We noticed that you like dropping depth charges. Yes. Okay.
We
there's-
noticed that you like playing the super ships. Yes, because I was fucking 10 times stronger than the other ships.
Funny that. There's also in 1010 a tier 10 clan battle season with no carriers, but up to 2 battleships.
Slightly oppressive, but it's better than the other environments that we could have possibly used.
Yes.
Let's see how they're going to ruin this. MB4 Cyclone.
Yeah, I think we're all quite optimistic that we're actually going to have like one final playable, enjoyable clan battle season before they're ruined forever by the addition of carriers and submarines and stuff.
2 battleships is like...
Yeah, just always remember that they could have a submarines double carrier cyclone season at tier 6. Just always remember that threat is always there.
I like how, like, we've had all of those things. Well, we haven't had the submarine
had them
one
separately.
Yet.
Well, not the submarines. Yeah, I've just got this funny feeling. Like, okay, all right, okay, players, okay, serious competitive players, you can have the nice tier 10 season that you want with the no carriers. You can have that.
Yeah.
This time.
Once we'll enjoy it.
Yeah. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to that. I'm going to try and play a little bit. It's hard for me to play with the streaming schedule and stuff, but I'm going to try and play on Thursdays when I'm not streaming. I might be able to stream a little bit of it as well. But I am actually going to try and play this season because that'd be cool. Because I haven't done a clan battle season. I haven't done the last 2 clan battle seasons, so it's going to be nice to be able to do a bit of that.
Now everyone gets to draw straws for who gets to play the one ship of the type.
Yeah, exactly.
Dibs on Clever.
Dibs on Des Moines.
That's all that wrong.
Whereas, for those of you who don't know us so well, we're all in the same clan. So there's a little bit of competition between, because there's one of the rules for this season is you can only bring one of each ship. So if there's a favourite ship, there's going to be a bit of fighting over it.
I mean, honestly, a lot of people can play a lot of different roles, and
yeah, exactly, it's transferable.
Like,
if you're the radar cruiser, it's very much of a muchness.
I mean, we can just bring Stalingrad, Moscow, Petrol, Des Moines, Salem, and that's
exactly.
drop the Salem out, and you've still got a comp.
And basic gunboat destroyer skills are the same. Basic torpedo boat destroyer skills are the same. It's quite transferable. I think it'll be fun. No, I'm looking forward to this season. It's gonna be cool. Also, Arms Race. Arms Race is coming in as a separate test battle mode,
which they are going to add to random battles.
Yes.
Apparently,
good.
So this is a test to add it into the random battles rotation. I, for one, welcome our new Arms Race overlords.
Please remove Epicenter to face.
Yes, I'm really hoping that it's gonna be a swap out. Can you imagine how happy people would be if they take Epicenter out, and throw it in the bin, and replace it with Arms Race?
But then how will we do the next King of the Sea, which is going to be all Epicenter?
Into with submarine super ships at tier 9. Yeah. Yeah. So that's cool. So there's going to be a separate thing, but just bear in mind that is with the view to adding it into random battles. So if you have feedback on Arms Race, make sure that you put it in via the usual feedback channels to Wargaming, because it's going to end up in random battles. And if you have any feedback, put it in. Another thing that's coming in 1010 is this. So this is the first time, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, that we are going to have what I'm calling an earn now, use later mechanic. So the battle performance bonuses, which is what Wargaming what I call flakes. So your anniversary flakes and your Santa snowflakes and research point flakes and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first one where it's been split between patches.
Yeah, so in case people don't know what the news is, in 1010, you're going to be able to earn your Santa crates, and then in 1011, you get your Santa crates. So every ship will have a flake, just like it does normally at Christmas.
Or your tier 10s.
Or your tier 10s, isn't it, below as well?
No, 89 to steel, 5 to 7 is hull.
Cool.
Yeah, you're right. So there'll be rewards on your ships. At tier 10, you can earn these tokens, which you can then spend in the next patch, 1011, which presumably goes over Christmas. on Santa crates. So bit weird because
Yeah,
it kind of forces you. I think essentially what it's designed to do is make you play 2 patches in a row.
Yeah,
That's it.
but it's also them responding to complaints of there's too much stuff to do in the Christmas New Year patch that people who like spending time with the family and stuff, to the point where in theory it's like you can play before the sort of family requirements become heavy, and then during like a few hours downtime on one day in the New Year's patch that you can just like jump on and convert your tokens into the crates that you want. Because I think it's the tier 10s, each tier 10 drops you a token, and the rate and the exchange rates are 1 for 1 for the small crates, 3 for 1 for the middle crates, and 5 for 1 for the big crates. So you can get mega crates for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, but right, wait for the goddamn drop rates to
Yes,
chat,
absolutely.
please.
Yes.
Because if you get X amount of tokens, right, you can get X amount of ships. So you need to go look at what the drop rates are and see which of the 3 boxes is going to be the best value for getting the ships. Because fuck all the other rewards, you want the ships.
So previous years, we've been able to kind of math it using people's reported drop rates, which is always a little bit dodgy because people tend to over-report the good stuff. But it's usually someone on Reddit will do some kind of compilation and work out, okay, it's usually the medium-sized crates are the best value for money. But this time we can actually do proper mathematics because we've got the drop rates as well. So yeah, definitely, if you can't be bothered to do it yourself, just wait, and I'm sure some clever person will work it all out for you. But I would suggest that buying the biggest ones is probably not going to turn out to be the best value per token on average.
If I remember rightly, last year the best value was the medium-sized boxes, i.e. Santa's big gift, not the small ones, which is Santa's gift. The Santa's big, not Santa's mega. That's the one that gave the best. I have my spreadsheet full of my drop rates from last year right in front of me right now, actually. And it was like 10%-ish for the big crates, i.e. the medium-sized ones. I think it was like 5% for the small ones. So, yeah.
I'm trying not to watch chat as we record this live, but the first person who says shortlist gets banned. Okay, so that's 1010. I don't think there's going to be a PTS 3. Sometimes in these 5-week patches they do a third PTS, so keep an eye out. We might see some news about that. But yeah, so 1010 will be coming on the 10th and 11th of November. So it'll be the 10th of November for CIS and NA, and the 11th of November for C and EU. So look out for those changes. We do have, just before we wrap up, at like 3.5 hours, by the way. This was never going to be a short one. We do have a couple of other questions. Diego asks, will odd tier carriers be back, and is someone working on them right now? I don't think Wargaming have recently talked about this. They have previously, quite a long time ago, mentioned that they're not off the table. They do have the models. They would like to reuse them. The idea of support carriers was tabled and discussed a little bit when the C rework first came out, which is nearly 3 years ago, but they haven't been mentioned recently. I would be very surprised if Wargaming don't want to reuse the models. Which means I would be very surprised if they don't come back in at some point. However, we have kind of seen Wargaming's release and flight plan and stuff for next year because of what they're doing with the CCTP and comms rework stuff they've been doing recently. So I don't think they're coming next year. But you never know. But they haven't said anything specifically. And finally, on a completely different note, Spartan asks, very good question, if you could have the perfect day, Painezor and Killerbin, what would you eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Painezor.
Is somebody else cooking?
Painezor.
Yes.
Someone else is cooking. You can have whatever you like.
All right, for breakfast, I'm going to have I guess I'll have like tuna and cheese melt. Sounds good breakfast, right?
Nice. Yeah.
For dinner, because it's breakfast, dinner, tea. That's
right.
how we work up here.
We'll translate into Northern. Okay, fine.
For dinner, I think, a good old carvery.
Carvery? Okay, good. Yeah. But For you, what does a carvery look like?
Meat, more meat.
Yeah.
Some
Do you do potatoes?
roasties. Not quite the
Roasties?
same.
Do you do Yorkshire puddings?
Yes, definitely.
Gravy?
Drown it in gravy.
Big grape? Nice. I'd go for that.
Stuffing?
No,
Painezor doesn't like his stuff.
it's too close to vegetables.
it's got sage in it. Ew. Herbs.
And then-
and for tea.
Oh, all right. So this is like under the assumption that it's a perfect day, so it doesn't matter how much I eat, I'm not going to get fat, right?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to get a big 14-inch garlic bread with cheese and chicken, and maybe a bit of tuna on top of it as well, and then a chicken kebab as a side with some chips.
Sounds delightful and very, very filling.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Some
Cool.
strawberry jam on toast.
Okay.
Light toast, not German toast.
Brown bread or white bread?
White bread. For lunch, probably also a carvery.
Okay.
Beef, mashed potato, gravy, Yorkshire puddings, carrots, broccoli, lots of gravy. And then for tea,
See, he also says tea.
a nice BLT.
Ooh.
What?
Okay. So you've had a big lunch.
Yep.
You're going
So
with a
small-
lighter dinner.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, tea. Painezor.
That's not going to fit you.
Where's your
remember,
side of
Killerbin,
fried chicken on a kebab or something?
All right, we've said that, like, this is like, guilt-free. You're not going to get fat as fuck from it.
No, but I'm still going to be rather full because, we didn't get the chance to go to a carvery or steakhouse at the Belfast.
No.
Had
no.
we, you'd have seen how much I can eat.
Yeah, unfortunately, we had a vegan in the party, so we couldn't go to the
The
steakhouse
place we
that we
went
wanted
to
to go
was
to.
nice, even
It
if
was.
you did almost throw up.
I would have preferred the steakhouse, though. We all would have preferred the
Okay.
steakhouse, but
And I really like food, so this is really hard. Breakfast. I think I would like to replicate the breakfast that I used to eat when I was at university in the United States, because I really like the breakfasts. Which is basically like start off with a bit of toast, a bit of jam, what they would call jelly. Have maybe like some scrambled eggs and some crispy bacon, which is completely different to our bacon, although our bacon is also nice. And then the bit that I absolutely loved, I had to pick one part of this breakfast. It was the waffles, the maple syrup, and the blueberries. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. All over it. Could eat that. I can eat that every day, but you know what I mean. Lunch. Ooh, lunch is a tough one. If I was going to have main meal in the evening. No, I'm going to be boring. I'm going to go the same as you guys. I'm going to do carvery. I love carvery. I absolutely adore. I'm sorry. It's just good. I'm going to go carvery. I would probably. It depends on the quality of the carvery. If it was a cheap kind of all-you-can-eat kind of carvery, I'd probably go with the chicken because that's a pretty safe option. If it was a decent carvery cooked by someone who knows what they're doing, I would probably go with beef.
But would you trust a cheap and easy carvery chicken though?
Yeah, because they usually cook it within an inch of being.
That's true.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I like a roast beef. Roast beef with all the trimmings of vegetables. I do like the cauliflower, cheese, broccoli. I love roast parsnips, roast carrots, roast potatoes. Love it. If it was beef, I would also have some horseradish sauce, and some gravy, maybe some bread sauce. Cheese. Anything else? I don't think I would have room at that point for a crumble, but if I did, if I had an infinite stomach on this special day, I would then also have probably an apple and blackberry crumble with custard.
Good
just
man.
to top it off.
I did
But
not
that's
consider
probably not
dessert
physically possible.
because I was figuring I'd have died by that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Or slipped
then-
in the mother of all food comas.
And then for dinner, as we call it in the south of England, I'm a big fan of like Asian fusiony kind of stuff. So I would probably go for something like a pho. Like
Man, you would have loved the Belfast trip.
Yeah, like a noodle soup or a stir fry, something fresh vegetables, stir fry, noodles. Yeah, that would do me just fine. Like a pad thai or something. Yeah, with some like an Asian-y style dessert. Like I really like Indian kulfi ice cream, like cardamom ice cream, something like that.
Well, yep. I think what we've unanimously agreed upon is that carvery is the superior dinner. Right?
Carvery is the only option for lunch. That's it. Right.
So when somebody takes over the world and they need to know what the utopian lunch is going to be, when you're like, this is basically carvery for everybody, every day, all day. Thank you.
You want to make the three of us, if we happen to be visiting you, and you want to make the three of us happy, carvery, otherwise known as a roast lunch, roast dinner. Yeah. Right then. Thank you very much, both. That brings us to the end. Finally, after 3 and something hours. I haven't exactly looked at what the time is, but it's a long time. Brings us to the end of this 10th episode of StatsThonk. Many thanks to my co-hosts.
3 1/4 hours.
Yeah.
To be fair, there was 15 minutes of advert.
There was, but it is still our longest one ever. Many thanks to my co-hosts Killerbin and Painezor for joining me. You can find the links to their channels in the description for this episode if I remember to put them in there. Or you can simply go to twitch.tv/Killerbin and twitch.tv/Painezor with an E in the middle and drop them a follow. Killerbin generally streams Warships on Mondays and he does War Thunder over the weekends. And Painezor generally streams Warships on Thursdays, and the rest of the week he's typing in the CC Discord.
Not wrong.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please do subscribe on whichever platform you are currently listening on. If you've listened via YouTube and would like a more convenient way of listening, this podcast is also available on Podbean, Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and on your Alexa device via TuneIn, and also many other good podcast listing platforms as well. We'll try and get out episodes as often. Why do I still say that? That's totally not true. We will do episodes whenever we damn well feel like it, and you will like it.
Whenever Stats isn't busy, basically.
But this is
that's
very
what
much,
it revolves around. Like me and Killerbin, like we're always free.
Yeah,
StatsBloke just go.
Yeah, you two could just don't. Maybe you just don't do your own episodes without me, and I'll just join in when I can.
We'll just call it Thonk.
Thonk.
There's
them
no
thonk.
Stats Thonk.
Them thonk. Unstats thonk. But yeah, this is very much like an extracurricular thing for me, especially. And so yeah, don't expect these to be regular, but we will try and do them as often as we can. Particularly when there's a lot of stuff to talk about. So many thanks to those who submitted great questions at short notice for this episode. If you would like to submit a question for a future episode, do keep your eye out for the dedicated channel I'll open before each episode in Discord. And you can get the link for that in my Twitch channel, !Discord, or look underneath the stream. You can also, we now have a vanity link thanks to some very kind people who've boosted the Discord server. So you can now also, I've just remembered, go to discord.gg/StatsBloke, which will also get you there. If you have an idea for a theme or a topic for the podcast, please do let any of us know. And remember that you can get 20% off Manscaped at manscaped.com with code StatsBloke at the checkout for free worldwide shipping. I've been Stats. You can find me at twitch.tv/StatsBloke on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays most weeks. Take care of each other, and we'll speak to you soon.